Hi guys, tonight we step far beyond the edge of memory into a world where no road has yet been laid, no city has risen, and no written name has ever been carved into stone. You wake in the half-dark beside a small fire, its red heart breathing softly beneath a blanket of ash. Around you, the air is cold enough to sting your nose. Smoke curls upward, slow and thin, carrying the smell of burned wood, damp earth, and animal hide. Before you settle too deeply into this ancient night, so before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as you listen, you can leave a quiet comment with where you're watching from and what the local time is where you are. Now, dim the lights and let your eyes adjust to a morning that belongs to no kingdom, no calendar, and no clock. You're somewhere in the wide world around 50,000 years ago. The exact place could be a cold valley in Ice Age Europe, a windswept plain in Western Asia, or a sheltered landscape near the edge of Africa. Humanity is not yet everywhere, but it is moving, slowly and persistently, like a thought crossing the mind of the planet. Small groups of Homo sapiens live by memory, skill, cooperation, and luck. There is no farming yet, no metal, no pottery, no permanent village, no little shop where someone complains that the bread is too expensive, which is perhaps one small mercy. The world is cooler than the one you know. Glaciers lie heavy across parts of the north. Grasslands stretch in places where forests may one day grow. Animals move through the land in great patterns of hunger and season. Mammoths, wild horses, deer, bison, wolves, lions, hyenas, bears, and many smaller creatures share the same morning air. You are not above this world. You are inside it. A mainstream historical fact is that by about 50,000 years ago, Homo sapiens were anatomically modern humans, with bodies and brains very similar to yours. If you could look into still water and see your reflection, the face staring back would not seem like a monster from another age. It would seem human. Different clothing, different hair, perhaps sharper from cold and hunger, but human. The eyes would understand fear, affection, curiosity, irritation, and that familiar sleepy wish to stay warm for just a little longer. You sit up slowly. The ground beneath you is covered with dry grass, hides, and old ash. It is not comfortable in the modern sense. There is no mattress waiting to remember the shape of your spine. There is no pillow, no blanket fresh from a laundry machine, no quiet electric hum from a heater in the corner. Warmth is something people must make, guard, and share. It is not a setting on a wall. Near you, someone shifts in sleep. A child breathes softly against a bundle of fur. An older woman, wrapped in hide darkened by smoke, opens her eyes before anyone speaks. Her face is lined, but not weak. In this world, age is a kind of library. She knows where roots grow after frost, which clouds bring weather, which berries should be left alone, and which silence in the trees is not really silence at all. The camp is small, perhaps 20 or 30 people, maybe fewer. These are your people. Not because anyone has written laws or drawn borders, but because survival has braided your lives together. You know their footsteps. You know who laughs softly, who chews too loudly, who can shape a stone edge with beautiful patience, and who tells the same story every night as if it might somehow improve with repetition. Some things, comforting or annoying, are very ancient. The fire gives a faint crackle. Someone leans forward and feeds it a twig. The twig catches slowly, first smoking, then glowing, then lifting into a small yellow flame. The light touches faces one by one, cheekbones, hair, hands. A sleeping dog-like animal is not yet guaranteed in every camp. depending on where and when we are, because researchers continue to question exactly when and how close the partnership between humans and wolves first became true domestication. Some evidence suggests deep ancient roots, while other finds point to later, clearer stages. So for now, perhaps you only hear wolves beyond the dark, not beside the fire. That uncertainty is part of this journey. The world 50,000 years ago is not a finished painting, it is more like a wall seen by firelight. Some shapes are clear, others flicker. Scholars have bones, tools, pigments, cave floors, ancient DNA, and traces of meals left in dust. But the full feeling of a life, the small daily thoughts, the jokes, the songs, the private worries, those have vanished into air. We can follow the evidence gently, but we must walk with humility. You rub your hands together. Your fingers are stiff from the cold. The skin around your nails is cracked. The smell of smoke has settled into your hair and clothing so deeply that you no longer notice it. Everyone smells of smoke, hide, sweat, earth, and weather. To modern noses, it might be intense. To you, it smells like home. Beyond the fire, morning gathers slowly. The horizon is pale grey. Frost clings to grass tips, making them shine in the weak light. A bird calls from somewhere unseen. Farther away, something larger moves through brush. A branch snaps. Everyone hears it, though no one leaps up in panic. Not yet. Listening is part of waking. There is no alarm clock. The world itself wakes you. Cold does. Hunger does. The changing light does. The quiet movement of others does. Your body understands the rhythm long before your thoughts fully return. A younger man rises and stretches his shoulders. His hide covering slips, and he pulls it back around himself with a sleepy frown. A woman checks the embers with a stick, then looks toward the place where yesterday's gathered food was stored under stones and woven branches. Another person lifts a stone tool and turns it in the growing light, inspecting the edge. The day has not properly begun, and already there is work. A quirky but revealing detail from prehistoric life is that archaeologists sometimes find tiny stone flakes scattered in ancient living areas. The leftovers of tool making. These little chips may seem like rubbish, but they are like the pencil shavings of the Ice Age. They show where someone sat, focused, tapping stone against stone, making an edge sharp enough to cut hide or meat. Even in deep prehistory, daily life left crumbs behind. You stand. The cold presses through the soles of your feet. Your breath appears white, then disappears. You pull your covering closer around your shoulders. It is made from animal skin, softened by use, rubbed with fat, smoked near the fire, repaired again and again. It smells strong, but it keeps you alive. Fashion is not absent here, exactly, but it has priorities. Warm first, beautiful second. Although, as you will learn, beauty is already present in surprising ways. You look around the camp and see no straight lines, no walls, no roofs like modern houses. Shelter is flexible. A rock overhang behind you blocks part of the wind. Branches and hides form a low barrier on one side. The fire sits where smoke can escape but warmth can gather. Everything has been placed through experience. Not perfect, not permanent, good enough for now. And that phrase, good enough for now, may be one of the secret engines of human survival. You walk a few steps from the sleeping place. The ground slopes gently toward a stream, its surface edged with thin ice. Water moves beneath, dark and quiet. You kneel near it, feeling the chill rise against your face. When you touch the water, pain flashes into your fingers. You drink anyway. The cold enters your mouth, your throat, your chest. It wakes you more completely than any modern cup of coffee. though frankly, coffee would have been very popular here if someone had managed to invent it early. Behind you, the camp grows louder by tiny degrees, or a cough, a murmur, a child asking for food, a stone striking another stone, dry grass rustling, the first low conversation of the morning. Language exists, though we cannot know exactly how it sounded. It may have been rich, flexible, subtle, full of names for places, animals, kin, tools, weather, and moods. You do not need writing to have a world full of meaning. You turn back toward the fire. The sun has not yet risen fully, but the sky is opening. The land around you appears piece by piece. A line of dark trees, pale grass, rocks with frost in their cracks, distant hills, the faint trail where feet passed yesterday. Somewhere out there are animals to follow, plants to gather, dangers to avoid, and decisions no one can postpone. This is life 50,000 years ago. Not a simple life, not a stupid life, not a life of endless panic either. It is a human life, close to the ground, close to weather, close to hunger, close to one another. You breathe in smoke and morning cold, and as the first light spreads across the ancient earth, you begin to move with the others, carrying nothing more modern than memory, skill, and the warm red glow of a fire that must not go out. You walk back from the stream with cold water still sharp on your lips, and the first thing you become aware of is your own body. Not as an idea, not as something measured in a mirror or judged under bright bathroom lights, which thankfully do not exist here. You feel your body as a tool, a shelter, a memory, and a burden. Your feet press into the frozen ground. Your knees bend as you step round stones. Your shoulders tighten beneath the animal's skin wrapped around you. Your breath comes slowly, visible in the pale air, then fades like a small ghost leaving your mouth. Around 50,000 years ago, the human body is already deeply familiar in its basic form. A mainstream historical fact is that Homo sapiens living at this time had skeletons, skulls, hands, an overall anatomy much like people today. You're not a half-formed creature waiting to become human. You're human already. Your bones are lighter than those of some earlier human relatives. Your face is flatter, your chin more distinct, your skull rounded in a way that holds a large and flexible brain. But feeling human in this world is not quite like feeling human in a modern apartment. Your body belongs to distance, weather, hunger, and work. It is shaped by constant movement. There are no chairs waiting everywhere to save you from your own legs. There are no soft shoes designed by people who have strong opinions about arch support. Your feet know uneven ground. Your toes grip, your ankles adjust. Your calves and thighs carry you across miles of grass, gravel, mud, and snow. You crouch beside the fire and hold your hands toward the warmth. Your hands are one of your quiet miracles. They are scratched and rough, the skin thickened by stone, hide, wood, and cold. Yet they are also delicate enough to pick a thorn from a child's foot, twist plant fibers into cord, shape a blade from flint, or paint a line of red pigment on skin. Your thumb meets your fingers with careful strength. Your fingertips feel texture with remarkable precision. A stone edge is not simply sharp or dull to you. It has a mood. It catches, slips, bites, or fails. Scholars remain divided on how quickly symbolic thinking, complex language, and advanced tool traditions spread across different human groups during this broad period. Some see signs of a dramatic flowering of creativity around this time, while others argue that the change was slower, uneven, and built from much older roots. Either way, as you sit here flexing your hands in the firelight, you're not waiting for intelligence to arrive. It is already working quietly in every movement. Someone beside you lifts a stone tool and tests it against a strip of hide. The sound is soft, almost private. Scrape, pause, scrape again. The tool is held at a careful angle, and the wrist moves with practiced rhythm. A child watches closely, pretending not to watch, which is, of course, one of the oldest ways children learn anything important. The adult says little, the hand teaches. You look down at your own fingers. There may be small scars across the knuckles, a healed cut near the thumb, a burn mark where a coal once rolled too close. The body keeps records long before writing does. Each mark is a little footnote, though no one here would call it that because footnotes would not be invented for a very long time, and everyone would probably be happier for it. Your skin feels the air. This matters. Cold is information. Wind direction is information. Dampness is information. Even the warmth of the morning sun, once it rises, will tell you where to sit, where frost may melt first, and where animals might move. You do not check an app. You check your face, your hands, your breath, the hair at the back of your neck. Your eyes lift toward the brightening land. Human eyes are made for pattern. You notice movement quickly, especially at the edges of vision. A bird dropping suddenly into grass, a branch shifting against the wind, a dark shape where yesterday there was pale stone. Colour matters too, though not always in the way modern life uses it. Here colour can mean ripe fruit, old blood, fresh clay, dry grass, storm clouds, or danger hidden in shadow. You hear footsteps behind you and know who it is before turning. The weight, the rhythm, the slight drag of one foot. In a small group, bodies are recognizable by sound. A person is not only a face, they're a walk, a cough, a smell, a way of breathing when tired. This closeness can be comforting. It can also be mildly annoying because privacy is not exactly abundant. If you want to be alone with your thoughts, the Ice Age offers plenty of open landscape, but not many doors to close. Your teeth ache faintly as you chew a piece of tough leftover meat handed to you by an older man. It is cold, smoky, and resistant, as if it has strong opinions about being eaten. Your jaws work hard. Prehistoric teeth often suffered wear from gritty food, tough fibers, and particles from stone-ground materials in later periods. At 50,000 years ago, before farming, cavities may have been less common in many groups than they became later with carbohydrate-rich diets, but that does not mean mouths were comfortable places. Teeth cracked, gums hurt, food fought back. A quirky, lesser-known tidbit is that archaeologists can sometimes study microscopic wear on ancient teeth to understand what people were eating, and even how they used their mouths. In some prehistoric groups, teeth may have served almost like a third hand, gripping hides, fibers, or materials during work. It is a useful reminder that your body here is not separate from technology. Your body is part of the toolkit. You swallow and feel the food move down into your chest. Hunger sits differently in this life. It is not a brief inconvenience between scheduled meals. It is a familiar companion, sometimes quiet, sometimes sharp. Your body knows how to continue with less than it wants. It stores energy when it can. It complains when it must. It makes you attentive. A patch of edible roots is not scenery. A cluster of eggs in a nest is not trivia. A trail of hoof prints is not just an interesting nature moment. It may become tomorrow's warmth. Still, your body is not only a machine for survival. You smile when a child drops a stick into the fire and startles at the sparks. You feel amusement rise in your chest. You feel tenderness when someone wraps a hide more securely around a sleepy toddler. You feel irritation when smoke blows directly into your eyes, because even 50,000 years ago, smoke has apparently chosen favourites. You blink, cough, and shift away, while someone else gives you a look that needs no translation. Your face can speak before words arrive. Eyebrows lift, mouth tightens, eyes soften, shoulders turn, a hand opens or closes. Much of human life is carried through small signals. In this camp, you must read them well. Cooperation is not a pretty idea painted on a cave wall. It is breakfast, shelter, childcare, safety, and memory. A person who cannot read the group is in real trouble. As the sun lifts higher, your shadow stretches across the frost. You stand again, feeling your spine straighten, your hips balance, your feet settle under you. Walking upright is ancient by your time, inherited from ancestors far older than anyone around the fire can imagine. It frees your hands to carry tools, food, children, fuel, and meaning. It also gives you a long view across the land. You are fragile. Yes, your skin can tear. Your bones can break. Your warmth can vanish in a single bad night. But you are also wonderfully adapted to endurance, attention, and care. You can walk far. You can remember paths. You can imagine tomorrow. You can hold fire in your mind before you hold it in your hand. And as the camp begins to stir toward the day's work, you feel the truth of this ancient body more clearly. It is not perfect. It is not comfortable. It is not protected by walls, laws, or medicine as you know them, but it is capable. It carries you into the cold morning, step by step, with the same quiet design that still carries you now, thousands of generations later, when you rise from sleep and enter another day beneath a different sky. The morning has fully entered the camp now, though gently, as if even the sun understands that everyone here has slept on the ground. You return to the fire with cold still clinging to your fingers. Around you, people begin to gather in slow circles, not because anyone has called a formal meeting, but because warmth has its own quiet authority. The fire is the center of the morning. It is light, heat, protection, tool, kitchen, and comfort. It is also a responsibility. If it dies at the wrong time, the day becomes harder. If it spreads where it should not, the day becomes very interesting in the worst possible way. At 50,000 years ago, people lived without farming, without domestic livestock, and without stored grain. A mainstream historical fact is that humans at this time survive as hunter-gatherers, relying on wild plants, animals, fish, shellfish, eggs, nuts, roots, and whatever the season allows. Food is not produced in fields. It is found, tracked, dug, gathered, carried, shared, dried, roasted, and remembered. This means breakfast is not a fixed meal. There is no neat bowl, no morning toast, no cheerful little packet telling you it contains vitamins. Breakfast is whatever remains from yesterday, whatever can be safely eaten, and whatever your group can afford to spare before the day's search begins. Someone unwraps a strip of meat from a hide. It is smoked, tough, and dark at the edges. Another person cracks open a small bone with a stone and works carefully to reach the marrow inside. The sound is dull and precise. Tap, turn, tap again. Nothing is wasted here, not because people have read inspiring advice about simplicity, but because waste can become hunger by sunset. You sit near the fire, knees drawn close, watching sparks lift and fade. Smoke drifts low for a moment and slides into your eyes. You turn your head, blinking. The smoke smells of dry wood, old ash, fat, and the faint sweetness of grass used as kindling. It settles into everything. Hair, hides, tools, skin, even the food tastes of it. After many days, smoke is no longer separate from life. It is part of the flavor of being alive. An older woman places a few roots near the edge of the coals. They are not thrown directly into flame. They are tucked close enough to soften, slowly, patiently. Another person uses a sharpened stick to turn a piece of meat. Fat begins to melt and hiss on the hot stones. The smell changes at once, becoming rich and heavy. Child nearby leans forward, too interested, and is gently pulled back by the shoulder. There is care in this movement, but also habit. Children learn fire the way they learn faces, by watching it every day. They learn that flames are beautiful and dangerous. They learn that embers can sleep under ash. They learn that smoke follows whoever is most offended by it, which is not science exactly, but it feels accurate. Researchers continue to question how early humans controlled fire in different places, and how often they were able to make it rather than preserve it. Clear evidence for fire use goes much further back than 50,000 years, but the details vary by region, and the skill of creating, carrying, and maintaining flame may not have been identical everywhere. In your camp, the people treat fire as something living. It must be fed. It must be sheltered from wind. It must be watched. A quirky, lesser-known tidbit is that ash and charcoal from ancient hearths can remain in archaeological sites for tens of thousands of years, leaving behind dark stains in the soil. To an untrained eye, it might look like dirt. To archaeologists, it can be the ghost of a morning like this one, a place where people once warmed their hands, cooked food, repaired tools, and told stories while the world outside remained cold. You take the piece of root when it is passed to you. It is hot enough to make you shift it quickly from one hand to the other. Its skin is blackened, but inside it has softened. You bite carefully. The taste is earthy, a little sweet, a little smoky, and gritty with ash. Your teeth press down. Your jaw works. Your stomach receives the first real promise of the day. No one eats alone in quite the modern way. Food moves through the group according to need, relationship, custom, and circumstance. The person who found it matters. The child who needs it matters. The old person who remembers where to find more matters. Sharing is not always perfect or gentle. People are people. There may be resentment, favoritism, teasing, quiet negotiation, and someone who thinks their portion is definitely smaller than it should be. Humanity has not yet invented paperwork, but it has already invented feelings about fairness. Still, sharing keeps the group alive. You watch as a small child receives a softened piece of food from her adult's hand. The child chews slowly, face serious with concentration. Nearby, two young people laugh at something you did not hear. The laughter is low and brief, but it warms the space almost as much as the fire. It reminds you that ancient life is not only struggle. There are jokes here, there is affection, there is boredom. There is probably someone who tells a story badly and refuses to notice. The morning hunger eases, but it does not disappear. It rarely disappears completely. Your body is always measuring. How much food came in, how much energy must go out, how cold the day may become, how far you might walk. Hunger sharpens attention. It pulls your eyes toward the storage place. It makes the landscape beyond camp feel full of possible answers. A man lifts a bundle of dry grass and checks beneath it, making sure no small animals have reached yesterday's gathered foods. A woman smells a piece of meat before deciding it can still be eaten. Your people do not have written rules for food safety, but they have noses, memory, and consequences. In a world without antibiotics, a bad meal is not a small inconvenience. It is a serious teacher. You move closer to the fire and hold a flat stone between your palms. It has been warmed near the coals. The heat seeps into your skin, loosening the ache in your fingers. Today, part of the group will likely go out to gather plants, fuel, and other materials. Others may look for animal signs, Someone will remain with children or those who are tired, injured, or very old. The camp is not idle just because it is quiet. The larger world behind this small breakfast is shaped by climate and movement. Ice sheets to the north influence winds and seasons. Animal herds follow grazing and water. Plants appear in their times and vanish again. Knowledge is carried in bodies and memory, not maps. Someone knows that beyond the ridge, a patch of edible roots may still lie beneath the soil. Someone else knows that ravens circling in the distance can mean a carcass, a predator, or both, which is useful information with a little unpleasant seasoning. You look beyond the smoke. The land is brightening. Frost melts in thin silver lines. The stream glitters between stones. A line of prints marks the soft ground where people walked yesterday. You can smell wet earth now, released by the morning light. The camp, which felt small and enclosed in darkness, begins to open into a larger day. For a moment, you simply listen. The crackle of the fire, the scrape of stone, the soft tearing of meat, the murmur of voices, the distant cry of a bird. These sounds are ordinary, and that is what makes them powerful. This is not a grand ceremony. No one here thinks they are living in prehistory. No one wakes and says, "How fascinating." We are early modern humans in the upper Paleolithic. They wake because they're cold. They eat because they are hungry. They tend the fire because warmth matters. They look toward the land because the day is waiting. You finish the last bite in your hand and brush ash from your fingers. Soon you will leave the fire's circle. Soon the camp will divide into movement, searching, carrying, watching, listening. But for now, in this brief pocket of morning, smoke rises through pale light. Ash settles softly over the stones, and human life gathers itself again around warmth. The fire breathes, the people stir, and you, warmed by food and flame, prepare to step into the ancient day. The warmth of the fire fades behind you, not all at once. First it leaves your hands, then your face, then your back, a few dozen steps beyond the camp. The comfort of the hearth belongs to memory rather than reality. The cold air meets you again, fresh and clean, carrying the scent of damp soil, distant trees, and frost slowly surrendering to the morning sun. You walk with several others across open ground. No one moves particularly fast. There is distance to cover, and experience has taught everyone that a steady pace is often better than a hurried one. Your feet crunch softly through patches of frozen grass. Small clouds of breath drift before your face and vanish. The landscape around you feels enormous. Today, people are accustomed to roads, fences, signs, fields, and buildings. Human presence marks nearly every horizon. 50,000 years ago, much of the world feels different. Vast spaces stretch outward with few signs that humans have ever passed through them. Evidence recovered from Ice Age environments shows that large portions of Eurasia contained open grasslands and cold steppe regions capable of supporting enormous herds of grazing animals. These environments often resembled neither modern forests nor modern deserts. Instead, they formed unique ecosystems that no longer exist in quite the same way. You pause briefly atop a low rise. From here you can see farther. The camp has become little more than a faint cluster of shapes near a stream. Beyond it lies a broad sweep of pale grass waving gently in the wind. Small stands of trees gather in sheltered depressions. Dark hills rise in the distance beneath a sky that seems impossibly large. The silence surprises modern visitors. Not because there are no sounds. There are many. Wind brushes through dry stalks. Birds call from unseen branches. A distant animal lets out a low cry. Somewhere, water moves over stone, but there are no engines, no aircraft. No electrical hum, no traffic, no distant city glowing beyond the horizon. The world breathes in its own voice. You continue walking. The people beside you scan the ground almost constantly. At first it seems strange. Why spend so much time looking down? Then you begin to notice what they notice. Broken stems, disturbed soil, tracks, tiny clues scattered across the earth. What first appears empty is actually filled with information. A skilled hunter-gatherer reads the landscape almost like a book. Not a book with letters, but a book written in footprints, feathers, droppings, broken branches, scents, shadows, and subtle changes in vegetation. You kneel beside a set of tracks impressed into damp earth. The marks belong to a deer-like animal that passed some time earlier. The edges remain sharp. Little debris has fallen into them. One member of your group studies the prints carefully. No words are needed. Everyone understands. The animal is not far away. Whether the group chooses to follow is another question. Food matters, but risk matters too. An injury can be more dangerous than hunger. The wind shifts slightly. You feel it against your cheek. Immediately, several people glance in the same direction. Wind is important. It carries scent. If you move carelessly downwind of prey, your smell may reach them long before you arrive. If predators are nearby, the wind may carry their scent toward you. Life in this world depends upon noticing things that modern people often ignore. A surprising detail emerges from studies of hunter-gatherer societies both ancient and recent. Skilled trackers can sometimes identify not only the species that left a footprint, but also clues about speed, health, age, and behavior. A track is not simply evidence that something passed by. It can reveal part of a story. You rise and continue forward. The ground changes beneath your feet. The grass becomes shorter. The soil turns stonier. Ahead, the land begins to slope gently upward toward a line of scattered trees. You enter their shade. Immediately the air feels cooler. Moist earth releases a rich smell from beneath fallen leaves and old plant matter. Birds flutter between branches overhead. Sunlight filters through gaps, creating shifting patterns across the ground. For a moment, you might imagine yourself in a modern woodland. Then you remember the larger world around you. Somewhere beyond these trees wander animals that have vanished forever from Earth. Woolly mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, giant deer with antlers wider than many people are tall, massive bison, predators powerful enough to challenge anything except a determined human group. The Ice Age world is filled with extraordinary creatures. Researchers have established that humans and many of these animals shared landscapes for thousands of years. Some species eventually disappeared through a combination of climatic shifts, environmental changes, and human pressures, though the exact balance remains actively discussed among specialists. The question is still far from settled. Why did some great Ice Age animals vanish while others survived? Different explanations continue to compete. Climate certainly played a role. Human hunting may also have contributed. The answer may involve both factors working together in ways that varied from region to region. You step over a fallen log. Its bark has peeled away in places, exposing pale wood beneath. Tiny insects move within cracks. A bird lands nearby and quickly pecks at the surface. Even here, life layers itself upon life. Nothing remains unused for long. The forest opens again. Sunlight spills across your path. Ahead lies a small valley. Water glitters below. The stream twists between patches of grass and stone before disappearing around a bend. You stop for a drink. The water is icy. Your fingers ache almost instantly when they touch it. Still, the cold feels refreshing. The group rests briefly. Nobody sits in complete stillness. Hands repair cords. Eyes scan the surroundings. Someone adjusts a hide covering. Another person studies a stone tool. Work and movement blend together naturally. There's rarely a sharp boundary between labour and daily life. An often overlooked finding from archaeological sites is how frequently stone tools were maintained rather than discarded. Many tools show evidence of repeated sharpening, reshaping, and reuse. Raw materials could be valuable. Carrying useful stone across long distances was often worth the effort. Nothing about this world encourages wastefulness. You pick up a small stone and turn it in your hand. Smooth, cool, heavy for its size. Perhaps somebody long ago examined a similar stone and saw potential hidden inside it. A scraper, a blade, a spear point, a useful object waiting to emerge. Human beings have always been remarkably good at seeing possibilities where others see only rocks. The wind strengthens slightly. Clouds drift across the sky. Their shadows move slowly across the valley floor. You watch them pass over grass, trees, and distant hills. The landscape feels alive, not alive in a magical sense. Alive because every part of it influences every other part. Animals follow plants. Humans follow animals. Predators follow both. Weather shapes everything. Memory connects it all. You realize something important as you stand there. The people around you do not think of themselves as being separate from nature. That idea belongs largely to much later societies. Here, humans are participants within the landscape. The land feeds them, challenges them, guides them, sometimes threatens them, sometimes shelters them, always surrounds them. The day continues to unfold. The sun climbs higher. Frost disappears completely. Birdsong grows more frequent. Somewhere far away, a herd begins moving across open ground. You cannot see them yet, but perhaps someone in your group already suspects they are there. The clues are subtle: a distant shape, a broken stem, a pattern in the tracks. Knowledge gathered through thousands of mornings. You take a deep breath. The air smells of grass, water, earth, and sunlight warming the land. Then you continue walking. The camp is now far behind. Ahead stretches the immense Ice Age world, waiting patiently to reveal its secrets one careful step at a time. You walk in silence for a while, but the silence is not empty. It is filled with small messages: a lifted hand, a glance toward the trees, a slight tilt of the head, a soft click of the tongue, a palm lowered slowly, asking everyone to pause. You stop when the others stop. You look where they look. At first, you see only grass bending in the wind and the pale trunks of trees beyond it. Then, after a few breaths, you notice movement. Not much, just a faint shift of brown against brown. A living shape partly hidden by the land. No one shouts. No one needs to. In this world, language is more than sound. It is movement, rhythm, expression, shared attention, and memory. Words may pass between people, but so do signals of the face, hands, shoulders, and eyes. Human communication is already rich. Even though no one has written a single mark on bark or bone to represent speech, the wider background matters here. Around 50,000 years ago, humans are living in small, mobile groups. Survival depends on cooperation, teaching, planning, warning, remembering, and comforting. A person alone can do many things, but a group can carry knowledge across generations. Language, in whatever exact form it takes, is one of the strongest threads holding that group together. Archaeological and fossil evidence suggests that Homo sapiens had the physical capacity for complex speech long before written history. The shape of the vocal tract, the brain, and the demands of social life all point toward people who could communicate in detailed ways. You may not know exactly what their words sounded like, but you can feel their necessity. A woman near you makes a soft sound in her throat and points with 2 fingers. The gesture is careful, not toward the animal directly, but toward a possible route around the wind. Another person shakes his head slightly, too exposed. A third person crouches and traces a short line in the dirt with a stick, showing a path around a patch of low brush. The others watch. No long speech follows. No committee is formed, which may be one advantage of deep prehistory, yet a decision takes shape. You understand some of it from gesture, some from sound, some from long familiarity. Communication here is not formal. It flows through bodies that have known one another for years. You recognize when someone is uncertain. You recognize when someone is warning you. You recognize the difference between wait, come closer, move quietly, and do not step there unless you have become tired of owning ankles. The group shifts direction. You move through the grass more carefully now. The stems brush your legs with a dry whisper. A small insect clings to one stalk, shining briefly in the light. The smell of crushed plants rises underfoot. The air is cool, but your body is warmer from walking. A child traveling with the group begins to hum softly. An adult touches the child's shoulder and gives a quiet look. The humming stops, not sharply, not with anger, just a reminder that sound travels. This is how learning happens here, through correction, imitation, shared attention, tiny moments repeated until they become instinct. A lesser-known clue about ancient communication comes from the complexity of tool-making. Some stone tool traditions require many steps, careful sequencing, and precise technique. Many researchers argue that such skills would have been difficult to pass down without strong teaching systems, whether through speech, gesture, demonstration, or all of them together. A stone blade is not only a tool, it is also a lesson preserved in material form. You remember the stone flakes near the morning fire? Those small chips were not random debris. They were traces of thought passing from one hand to another. A person once watched, then tried, then failed, then tried again. Someone older may have corrected the angle of the strike. Someone may have laughed kindly. Someone may have grown impatient. This, too, is very human. The evidence remains open to interpretation when it comes to the exact sound and structure of early human language. Some specialists believe fully modern language existed well before 50,000 years ago. Others suggest that language may have become more elaborate gradually, alongside changes in social life, migration, and symbolic behavior. The truth may not fit neatly into one dramatic moment. Human speech probably did not arrive like a door suddenly opening. It may have grown like fire from embers. You continue walking. The animal you glimpsed has moved away, or perhaps you have lost it in the broken landscape. No one seems disturbed. A missed chance is part of the day. The group slows near a cluster of stones warmed by sunlight. Here, conversation returns in low tones. You cannot translate the words for a modern listener, but you can understand the feeling. Someone describes what they saw. Another responds with a short sound of disagreement. A hand gestures toward the slope. A laugh passes through the group when one person exaggerates the size of the animal, spreading both arms wider than necessary. Even now, humor lives close to survival. Perhaps, especially now, a joke softens disappointment. A familiar teasing voice tells everyone that hunger has not stolen the whole morning. You smile because others smile. Laughter moves through human groups like warmth through skin. Modern people sometimes imagine prehistoric life as grim and silent, but that picture is too flat. People spoke, signaled, joked, sang, warned, comforted, and remembered. They may have named rivers, hills, animals, storms, ancestors, and children. They may have had words for colours, textures, moods, kinship, and danger. They may have carried stories about how a certain valley became unsafe after winter, or how a particular rock shelter once saved the group during a storm. You look toward the horizon. The land itself may be full of names, not written on signs, and of course no wooden marker says, "Welcome to this valley, Artip. Please enjoy your stay and avoid the lions." But in the minds of your people, places are marked by memory. A bend in the stream may have a name. A cliff may be linked to a story. A stand of trees may be remembered because someone found honey there, or because someone was injured there, or because one evening the moon rose behind it so brightly that no one forgot. Language turns landscape into home. You pass beneath a low branch. A young person behind you whispers something and points at a patch of mud. There are prints there, small ones, perhaps fox, perhaps hare. Another person kneels and examines them, then responds with a few quick sounds. The younger one nods, storing the knowledge. You can almost feel memory moving. No notebook, no schoolroom, no written lesson, only attention. The wind rises, carrying the smell of damp soil and distant animals. You hear birds shift suddenly in the trees ahead. The group becomes quiet again. This change happens without command. One person stills, then another, then all of you. The silence returns. But now you know it is not the absence of language. It is language held carefully inside the body. You listen with your whole self. Your ears gather sound. Your eyes gather motion. Your skin gathers wind. Your mind gathers meaning. And somewhere within this small human group, in gestures and murmurs, in remembered paths and shared jokes, in warnings passed from hand to hand, the ancient world becomes understandable enough to survive. You move forward again, softly, step by step, carrying a language that leaves almost no trace in the earth, yet shapes everything you do. The conversation fades behind you, as attention shifts once more toward practical matters. The morning has grown brighter. Frost has disappeared from most of the grass, leaving beads of water that flash briefly in the sunlight. The air feels less harsh now, though a cool breeze still brushes against your face. Somewhere ahead, a raven circled above a distant rise, its dark wings moving slowly against the pale sky. One member of the group kneels beside a cluster of stones. You stop nearby and watch. At first it seems like an ordinary pile of rock. Then you notice that several pieces are different. One has a sharp edge. Another shows smooth surfaces where flakes have been removed. A third appears unfinished, waiting for the next careful strike. You are looking at technology. Not technology as modern people usually imagine it. There are no glowing screens, no batteries, no machines humming in the background. Yet for a human living 50,000 years ago, these objects are every bit as important as a smartphone or automobile would be to someone today. The difference is that every piece must be understood from beginning to end. You know where it comes from. You know how it is made. You know how it breaks. You know how to repair it. Evidence from archaeological sites across Africa, Europe, and Asia demonstrates that prehistoric humans developed increasingly sophisticated stone tool traditions long before recorded history. By 50,000 years ago, many groups were producing carefully shaped blades, scrapers, points, and specialized implements suited to different tasks. The person kneeling beside the stone selects a piece of flint. Its surface catches the sunlight, dark, smooth, heavy in the hand. The toolmaker turns it slowly, studying angles invisible to you at first. Then comes the strike. Click. A sharp sound cuts through the air. A thin flake breaks away. Another strike follows, then another. Each movement appears simple until you realize how much skill is involved. Too hard and the stone shatters incorrectly. Too soft and nothing useful happens. The angle matters. The force matters. The shape hidden inside the stone matters. You sit down nearby. The ground feels cool beneath you. Small fragments gather around the worker's knees like grey leaves. A child approaches quietly and watches. No formal lesson begins. No lecture follows. The child simply observes. This is how much prehistoric education happens. By proximity, by repetition, by attention. The teacher rarely says, "Today we will begin chapter 3. Instead, knowledge flows through to daily life. An intriguing detail comes from microscopic analysis of ancient tools. Some stone blades were so finely crafted that modern researchers have compared certain edges to surgical scalpels in sharpness. Despite the simple materials involved, these tools could perform remarkably precise work. You imagine using one, cutting hide, trimming fibers, preparing food, shaping wood, removing splinters. Every sharp edge expands what humans can accomplish. Without tools, survival becomes dramatically harder. With tools, possibilities multiply. The toolmaker finishes one piece and holds it up for inspection. Sunlight flashes along its edge. The child reaches out carefully to touch it and immediately pulls back. Sharp. The lesson requires no explanation. You continue walking after a while, carrying a scraper tucked into a fold of hide. Its weight is reassuring. The tool rests against your side as you move through the grassland. Unlike modern objects manufactured in distant factories, every tool here feels personal. Someone made it. Someone repaired it. Someone may have carried it across many miles. The marks of human hands remain visible. Ahead, another member of the group pauses beside a fallen branch. The branch is examined briefly, then cut. Not with metal, not with a saw, with stone. The process takes longer than modern people might expect, but it works. Thin curls of wood fall away. The branch gradually changes shape. Soon it becomes straighter, lighter, and more useful. You watch shavings scatter across the ground. Each one smells fresh and clean. The scent of exposed wood mixes with the earthy smell of grass and damp soil. The evidence can be interpreted in several ways when researchers discuss how much specialization existed among prehistoric groups. Some scholars suggest that certain individuals may have become especially skilled at particular tasks such as tool making. Others argue that many members of a community likely possessed a broad range of practical abilities. The reality may have varied from place to place. Either way, competence matters. A person who can shape stone well becomes valuable. A person who understands wood becomes valuable. A person who knows where useful materials can be found becomes valuable. Knowledge itself becomes a resource. You reach a small outcrop of rock. Several people stop. One kneels immediately and begins examining exposed stone surfaces. Now you understand. They are searching for raw material. Not every rock makes a good tool. Some break unpredictably, some crumble, others fracture in ways that create sharp, useful edges. Finding high-quality stone can be almost as important as finding food. A rarely discussed aspect of prehistoric travel is that certain stone materials move surprisingly long distances. Archaeologists have discovered tools made from rock sources located many miles from where the finished objects were found. This suggests movement, exchange, or social connections extending across large regions. The idea feels strangely familiar. Even in deep prehistory, humans are connected, not through internet cables or highways, through relationships, through travel, through memory. You pick up a stone fragment and turn it in your hand. Its surface feels cool despite the growing warmth of the day. You wonder how many generations have done exactly this. A person kneeling beside a river, a person standing beneath a cliff, a person searching a hillside for just the right material. The activity is ancient beyond comprehension, yet instantly recognizable. Humans are builders. Humans are problem solvers. Humans see possibility where none seems obvious. The group resumes walking. The sun now sits higher overhead. Shadows have shortened. Birds move between patches of brush, calling to one another in quick bursts. A rabbit darts suddenly from cover, startling several people before disappearing again. For a moment, everyone watches it go. Then the journey continues. As you walk, you become more aware of the tools around you. Stone points attached to wooden shafts, scrapers tucked into belts of hide, cordage made from plant fibers, carrying bags fashioned from animal skin. None appear extraordinary to the people using them. That may be the most important thing to remember. Technology rarely feels revolutionary to those living with it every day. It simply becomes normal. The same way modern people stop noticing electricity until the power goes out. For your group, tools are woven into existence itself. They're extensions of hands, eyes, and memory. They transform difficult tasks into manageable ones. They make survival more reliable, not easy, never easy, but possible. The breeze strengthens slightly. Grass bends in long waves across the landscape. The sound resembles distant water. You pause atop another rise and look out across the vast Ice Age world. Somewhere beyond the horizon, other human groups are shaping stone beneath different skies, different languages, different traditions, different stories, yet perhaps using tools remarkably similar to yours: a blade, a scraper, a point. Simple objects carry an immense knowledge. You rest your hand on the scraper at your side. Its edge represents thousands of years of accumulated experience, countless observations, countless experiments, countless mistakes. Human ingenuity condensed into a small piece of carefully shaped stone. Then you continue onward through the grassland, carrying one more example of the quiet technology that helps your species endure in a challenging and beautiful world. The group leaves the stony rise and moves toward lower ground, where the soil darkens and the air grows softer. Here the wind is less sharp. The land dips gently, sheltering grasses, shrubs, and small trees from the colder breath of the open plain. Sunlight falls in broken patches. The smell changes too. Less frost, more damp earth, less dry grass, more roots, leaves, and hidden growth. You follow two women, an older man, and several younger people into this quieter place. No one carries the expectation of finding a single grand meal. Gathering is often more patient than that. It is a slow conversation with the land, a handful here, a root there, a cluster of berries. If the season is kind, eggs from a nest. If luck is unusually generous, and the birds are not feeling dramatic about it, your eyes scan the ground. At first, everything looks similar: leaves, stems, moss, old branches. Then the older woman stops and points with the end of a digging stick. There, almost hidden beneath low growth, is a plant she recognizes. Its leaves are small and dull green. Nothing about it announces itself as food. It does not sparkle. It does not politely label itself edible. It simply waits in the soil, depending on memory to be found. You kneel beside her. She loosens the earth with careful pressure. The digging stick is hardened at the tip by fire and use. Soil breaks apart in dark clumps. A root emerges, pale and twisted. She lifts it, smells it, rubs away dirt with her thumb, and places it in a hide bag. You watch closely. This is knowledge, but not the kind that sits in a book. It lives in hands, seasons, and repeated journeys. It lives in knowing which plants help, which plants harm, and which plants are only useful if prepared properly. Because apparently even prehistoric dinner sometimes comes with instructions. Findings from ancient campsites and studies of modern hunter-gatherer diets show that plant foods often played a major role in human survival. Meat mattered deeply, but daily calories could also come from roots, tubers, nuts, seeds, fruits, leaves, and other gathered foods, depending on region and season. The old picture of prehistoric people eating only great slabs of roasted meat is far too simple. Life was more varied, more clever, and probably involved a great deal more digging. The group spreads out slightly. Not too far, never too far. You hear the soft scrape of sticks entering soil, the rustle of leaves, a low murmur when someone identifies a useful patch. A child laughs quietly after pulling up a root so small it seems more like a joke than food. An adult smiles and lets the child keep it anyway. You move beside a shrub where small berries hang in shadow. One of the younger women catches your wrist before you reach for them. She shakes her head. Not those. Her expression is calm but firm. You pull your hand back. In this world, ignorance can be dangerous in very ordinary ways. A wrong berry, a spoiled carcass, a plant harvested at the wrong time, a mushroom that looks almost like another mushroom, because nature apparently enjoys setting traps for anyone who feels too confident. The available evidence leaves room for disagreement about exactly how different groups balanced gathered plants and hunted animals across Ice Age landscapes. In colder regions, animal foods may have been especially important. In warmer or more varied environments, plant foods may have provided a larger share. There is no single prehistoric menu. There are only local worlds, each with its own possibilities. You continue along the stream edge. The ground is softer here, marked by small animal tracks. Water insects skate across the surface. Thin reeds bend gently, making a dry whispering sound. A bird rises suddenly from the bank and vanishes into the trees with quick wings. Someone finds nuts hidden beneath leaf litter. Another person discovers edible shoots. The hide bags slowly gain weight, not heavy enough to celebrate, not light enough to ignore. Food gathering is rarely spectacular, but it is reliable when knowledge is deep. Each item may seem small, yet together they become the difference between a hard evening and a survivable one. A subtle clue preserved in ancient dental calculus, the hardened plaque on old teeth, has sometimes revealed traces of plant starches and other microscopic remains. It is a strangely intimate kind of evidence. Long after voices vanish and bodies return to earth, tiny fragments trapped on teeth can still whisper. This person ate plants, chewed fibers, tasted the world in ways stone tools alone cannot show. You pause beneath a tree and listen. The soundscape here is gentle. Water, leaves, distant birds, soft footsteps, the low breathing of people concentrating. The cold of the morning has lifted just enough for your shoulders to relax. Sunlight touches the side of your face. You smell crushed greenery on your fingers. Dirt has gathered beneath your nails. The work is slow, repetitive, and oddly calming. Modern life often hides food behind packaging, prices, and shelves. Here, food is not hidden by commerce, it is hidden by ecology. To eat, you must notice, you must remember, you must return at the right time. You must understand that the land is not empty just because it does not look generous at first glance. The older woman moves to another patch. You follow. She shows a younger child how to tell one root from another by the leaf shape and smell. The child repeats the motion clumsily, breaking the stem too high. The woman clicks her tongue, not unkindly, and demonstrates again. The child tries once more. This, too, is survival, not the dramatic kind. No roaring animal, no desperate chase, no heroic pose against the sunset. Just a child learning where dinner hides. You kneel again and push the digging stick into soil. Your palms feel the pressure, your wrists ache slightly. The root resists, then loosens. When it comes free, the smell is rich, damp, and faintly sweet. You hold it up, and the older woman nods, a small approval. Enough. You place it into the bag. As the sun rises higher, the group gathers in a patch of warmth near the stream. Food is sorted, and some plants are kept apart because they require cooking. Others can be chewed raw in small amounts. A few are discarded after closer inspection. Nothing is casual. The line between nourishment and sickness can be narrow. One of the more unexpected lessons from studying prehistoric food is how much processing may have mattered. Grinding, roasting, soaking, drying, pounding, and scraping can turn difficult foods into useful ones. Even before farming, humans were not simply picking and eating whatever appeared. They were transforming the landscape's offerings through skill. You chew a small piece of safe plant stem. It tastes green and slightly bitter. Not delicious, perhaps, but useful. And useful has its own flavour. The group prepares to move again, bags tied and carried close. The land behind you looks almost unchanged, though you know it is not. Roots have been lifted. Plants have been judged. Knowledge has been practiced. Hunger has been pushed a little farther away. You look back once more at the damp hollow, the stream, the leaves trembling in soft wind. It seems quiet, almost ordinary. Yet hidden inside this small place is an entire library of survival, written in roots, berries, smells, seasons, and careful hands. Then you turn with the others and walk on, carrying the day's gathered food against your side, feeling its modest weight as one of the oldest comforts humans have ever known. You leave the damp hollow with the gathered food tied close, and the land begins to open again. Ahead, the grass grows longer. It bends in wide, soft waves under the wind, pale gold and green beneath the afternoon light. The group walks more quietly now. Gathering has filled the bags a little, but hunger still waits somewhere behind the ribs. Roots and shoots help. Yes, but meat can change the mood of an entire camp. You notice the others looking down more often. The ground here is softer in places, pressed by hooves, paws, and small clawed feet. Tracks cross one another like lines in an unreadable script. To modern eyes, it might seem chaotic. To your companions, it is a record of movement. One set of prints is deep and fresh. A large grazing animal passed here recently. You crouch beside the marks. The soil still holds their shape. Crushed grass lies in the same direction. A faint smell rises from broken stems and disturbed earth. Someone touches the edge of one print, then looks toward the wind. No one rushes. Ancient hunting is not simply chasing. It is patience, reading, guessing, and sometimes accepting failure with as much dignity as possible, which is easier when no one is filming it. The archaeological record makes clear that humans 50,000 years ago hunted and processed animals using stone tools, wooden weapons, planning and cooperation, cut marks on bones, hunting sites, and tool remains show that meat, marrow, hides, tendons, and bones all had value. An animal was not only food, it was warmth, cordage, containers, tools, and future shelter. You follow the tracks slowly. The group spreads into a loose line. Each person knows where the others are without needing many words. A hand lifts. Everyone pauses. A bird calls. The wind shifts. Someone lowers their body slightly, and you copy the movement. The grass brushes against your legs. Dry seeds cling to the hide around your knees. The air smells of sun-warmed plants and animal musk. Somewhere ahead, hidden by a low rise, the herd may be moving. You hear nothing at first. Then faintly, a sound like breath through many bodies, not loud, not dramatic, just a soft collective presence. The group stops. You feel your heart beating harder, though no one has run. This is not fear exactly. It is a tension sharpened until the whole world seems to narrow. The old jokes, the morning fire, the stream, the roots in the bag, all of it fades behind the simple fact that animals may be close. A small discovery opens a surprisingly large window into this world. Ancient animal bones often show not only cuts from butchery but also percussion marks from breaking bones for marrow. Marrow is rich, fatty, and precious. It tells us that prehistoric people understood how to reach calories hidden deep inside what might otherwise look like waste. The group moves around the rise, carefully, slowly. The wind is in your favor. At the top, you lower yourself and look out. There they are. A small group of wild horses or deer-like animals graze beyond a shallow dip in the land. Their heads rise and fall. One flicks its tail, another steps forward, tearing grass with steady movements. They seem peaceful, almost dreamlike in the light. But no one around you relaxes. An animal that appears calm can vanish in a heartbeat. The hunters study the herd. Which animal is young? Which one is old? Which one limps slightly? Which direction will they run if startled? Where does the ground narrow? Where could people move without being seen? These questions pass through the group in glances and gestures. Different teams of researchers have offered varying interpretations of how often early humans relied on active hunting compared with scavenging, trapping, fishing, or opportunistic finds. The balance likely shifted with environment, season, prey, and local tradition. What matters here is not a single simple answer. What matters is flexibility. You watch as two people move quietly to the left, keeping low. Another remains near you, gripping a wooden spear tipped with a carefully shaped point. The shaft is smooth from handling. The point is bound tightly with sinew and plant fiber. Every part of it represents effort. Your mouth feels dry. The animals graze. The wind moves. A cloud passes over the sun, briefly dimming the valley. For several breaths, nothing happens. Then one of the animals lifts its head. Its ears turn. The whole herd changes as not running yet, listening. The hunters freeze, like even your breathing seems too loud. A small bird bursts from the grass nearby, startling you so badly that your shoulders jump. The person beside you gives the briefest sideways look. Not angry, more like, yes, nature enjoys embarrassing us. The herd begins to move away, slowly at first, then faster. The chance weakens. One hunter shifts, but the older man near you lowers his hand. No, too risky, too far, bad ground. The animals trot toward open land, then break into a run, their bodies flowing together across the grass. Hooves strike the earth in a muffled rhythm. Dust rises behind them. In a few moments, they are beyond reach. No one speaks. You might expect disappointment to fill the air, but it does not come sharply. The group has lived this before. Hunting includes watching food disappear into the distance. It includes hunger, patience, and the quiet calculation that surviving today also means not being injured today. One conclusion supported by many studies of hunter-gatherer life is that successful survival depends on broad knowledge, not constant success in one activity. A missed hunt can be balanced by gathered foods, stored fat, fishing, smaller animals, scavenged remains, or another opportunity later. The group does not depend on heroic perfection. Thankfully, because heroic perfection is a very unreliable meal plan, you rise slowly. The herd is gone, but the tracks remain. The hunters walk down into the shallow dip where the animals were feeding. They examine droppings, bitten grass, and disturbed soil. Even a failed encounter gives information. The herd's direction may matter tomorrow. Their condition may reveal where better grazing lies. Their presence confirms that this part of the landscape is worth remembering. You touch the grass where one animal stood. It is still bent. Warm sunlight returns as the cloud moves away. The valley looks peaceful again, almost as if nothing happened, but your body still hums with alertness. This is what following animals does. It pulls you into their world. You begin to think with their movement, their fear, their hunger, their roots between water and grass. To hunt is not only to attack, it is to understand another creature well enough to meet it within the landscape. The group turns back toward a safer path. There will be no large kill this moment. Still, someone finds a cluster of feathers near a bush. Another notices small burrows in a bank. Someone points towards circling birds far away. Possibility has not ended. It has simply changed shape. You walk on, carrying the memory of the herd like a quiet spark. Behind you, their hoofprints remain in the damp earth. Ahead, the day continues, patient and wide, offering no guarantees, only signs. And in this ancient world, signs are everything. The herd has disappeared into the distance for a few moments. You can still see faint movement far across the grassland, little more than shifting shadows beneath the afternoon sun. Then even that vanishes. The land becomes quiet again. No one chases after them. The group has already made its decision. The day is advancing. The light has begun its slow turn toward evening. The gathered food must be carried home. The younger children waiting at camp will be hungry. The older people will be watching the horizon. And perhaps most importantly, everyone knows that returning safely is often more valuable than gambling on one uncertain opportunity. So you begin the journey back. The path feels familiar now. You pass the stream where reeds whisper in the breeze. You cross the patch of soft earth marked with animal tracks. You move through open grasslands painted gold by the lowering sun. The world seems gentler than it did this morning. Not because it has changed, because you have spent the day inside it. The landscape no longer feels endless and unknown. It feels inhabited by memory. Here is where roots were gathered. There is the place where the herd appeared. Beyond that rise lies the stony outcrop where toolmakers searched for good flint. Every step adds another layer to the map stored inside your mind. Long before written charts existed, human beings carried landscapes within memory, rivers, shelters, food sources, dangerous places, migration routes, and seasonal resources were remembered through experience and passed from person to person. Survival depended on knowing where to go before you needed to go there. The wind cools as the sun lowers. You pull your hide, covering a little tighter. Ahead, smoke appears, just a thin grey thread against the sky. The camp. At first it seems impossibly small. A few distant shapes. A faint column of smoke. Tiny figures moving near the fire. Yet seeing it brings an immediate sense of relief. You had not realized how much your body was looking forward to shelter until now. Home, in this world, does not mean permanent walls or locked doors. It means familiarity. It means people. It means warmth, waiting in the gathering dark. As you approach, sounds begin reaching you. Children talking, someone laughing, the crackle of burning wood, the rhythmic tapping of stone on stone. The camp is alive. Several people remain behind during the day's excursions. One older man sits near the fire working carefully on a damaged spear shaft. A woman tends a small pile of drying plant material. 2 children play with sticks, inventing a game whose rules seem to change every few moments, which is apparently another very ancient human tradition. You enter the circle of familiarity. Immediately the air changes. The smell of smoke settles around you. The warmth touches your face. The day's gathered food is placed near the fire for sorting. No grand celebration follows. The hall is modest. Roots, shoots, nuts, a few edible plants, some useful materials gathered along the way. Enough to help, enough to matter. One of the revealing patterns archaeologists have uncovered is the repeated evidence for hearth-centered living spaces. Across many prehistoric sites, traces of fire, tools, food preparation, and social activity often cluster around central hearths. Again and again, fire appears not merely as a source of heat, but as the heart of community life. You lower yourself onto a hide near the edge of the firelight. Your legs feel pleasantly tired, the kind of tiredness earned through movement rather than stress, the kind modern people sometimes try to recreate with exercise programs and expensive equipment. Your muscles ache, your hands are dirty, your stomach is not entirely full. Yet there is comfort in being back among familiar faces. The sun continues sinking. Its light grows softer. Long shadows stretch across the camp. The sky begins changing colour. Blue deepens. Gold spreads along the horizon. Clouds glow briefly before fading. Several people begin preparing sleeping areas, not because darkness has arrived yet, because preparation matters. Night comes every day. It should not be allowed to surprise anyone. An interesting clue from prehistoric shelters comes from wear patterns, post holes, hearth locations, and preserved structures found at various archaeological sites. These discoveries suggest that humans often arrange living spaces thoughtfully, creating areas for sleeping, working, cooking, and social activity. Even temporary camps could have organization and structure. You look around more carefully. The arrangement becomes visible. The fire sits near the center. Sleeping places cluster where warmth can still be felt. Tools rest in predictable locations. Gathered materials are stored nearby. Nothing appears random. The camp may look simple to an outsider, but it reflects generations of practical experience. The answer remains uncertain when researchers discuss exactly how long prehistoric groups stayed in particular camps. Some locations may have been used briefly before moving on. Others may have served as recurring seasonal destinations visited again and again across many years. Looking around now, you can imagine why certain places became favorites. This camp has water nearby, good visibility, protection from some winds, access to useful resources. A place does not need walls to feel welcoming. A child runs past carrying a bundle of sticks almost as large as themselves. The sticks wobble dangerously. An adult intercepts the situation before gravity fully expresses its opinion. The child laughs. The adult laughs too. The bundle survives. The fire receives new fuel. Life continues. You lean back and watch sparks rise into the darkening sky. The first stars are beginning to appear, tiny points of light emerging one by one. Nobody here knows what stars truly are. No one understands nuclear fusion. No one possesses telescopes. Yet the sky matters deeply. The stars provide orientation, patterns, stories, wonder. Human beings have always looked upward. The questions come naturally. What are those lights? Why do they move? Where do they go? Some questions may never change. A fascinating detail hidden within prehistoric archaeology is the discovery that certain campsites appear to have been revisited repeatedly over long periods. The same favourable locations attracted people generation after generation. Different individuals lived, worked, and died there, yet the place itself remained part of a larger human memory. Perhaps your camp is one of those places. Perhaps people stood here long before your birth. Perhaps children played beside this same stream decades ago. Perhaps future generations will return after you're gone. The thought is strangely comforting. The fire burns brighter as darkness gathers. Voices grow quieter. Food is distributed. Tools are inspected. A few final tasks are completed before night fully arrives. The air grows colder again. You feel it settling over the landscape. Beyond the firelight, shadows deepen between trees and rocks. The familiar world begins transforming into its nighttime version. Soon the camp will become an island of warmth surrounded by darkness. But for now, you sit comfortably near the flames. You watch smoke drift upward. You listen to the low murmur of conversation. You feel the steady presence of people around you. And as evening slowly closes over the Ice Age landscape, you understand something simple yet important. A shelter is more than a physical place. It is a collection of relationships, a shared fear, a remembered location, a circle of trust held together against the vastness beyond. Tonight, that circle waits for you, and after a long day walking through the ancient world, it feels very good to be home. Night has passed, morning has returned, and the camp wakes again in its slow, familiar way. But this time, your attention is drawn not to the fire, not to the tools, not to the distant animal trails, but to the children. They're everywhere once you begin noticing them. One sits near the edge of the sleeping area, rubbing ash between small fingers as if testing the texture of the world. Another follows an older sibling with great seriousness, carrying a stick that is clearly a spear in imagination, though mostly a twig in reality. A very young child leans against a woman's side, half asleep, hair tangled, eyes watching the fire with quiet wonder. In this ancient camp, childhood is not sealed away from adult life. There is no separate school building, no bright classroom, no little plastic chair, no teacher writing the date in the corner of a board. Children learn by being near life as it happens. They watch food being prepared. They watch hides being scraped. They watch tools being shaped, repaired, and used. They hear warnings, jokes, stories, arguments, songs, and the soft language of comfort. Their education is not scheduled. It surrounds them. Long after this camp is gone, the traces left at similar ancient sites will show that children were not merely passive passengers in prehistoric life. Small footprints, tiny hand marks, miniature tools, and evidence of learning errors suggest that young people took part in the daily world around them. They copied, they played, they practiced, they made mistakes. In other words, they were children, which is reassuringly consistent across time. You sit near the fire and watch one child try to scrape a piece of bark with a dull stone. The movement is awkward, the angle is wrong, the bark does not cooperate. The child frowns deeply, as if personally betrayed by wood. An older man notices, reaches over, adjusts the child's wrist, and shows the motion again. Not a long lecture, not a dramatic lesson, just a small correction. The child tries again. This time the thin curl lifts from the surface. The child looks up. The old man nods. That tiny nod may carry more power than praise. Nearby, several children chase one another around a patch of flattened grass. Their game has no written rules, and possibly no stable rules at all. One child shrieks with laughter, then remembers the adults nearby and lowers the sound into a breathy giggle. Another trips, lands on hands and knees, pauses, decides the injury is not serious enough to justify stopping, and runs again. Play looks light, but it is not empty. Through play, children practice balance, speed, coordination, cooperation, deception, patience, and emotional recovery after losing, which remains a useful skill even in the modern world, especially during board games with relatives. In hunter-gatherer life, children often learn through observation and participation rather than formal instruction. Studies of recent foraging societies, used carefully and respectfully, help researchers imagine how prehistoric childhood may have worked. Young people may have gathered small foods, watched infants, carried fuel, practiced tool use, learned plant knowledge, and absorbed social customs gradually. But the picture is not perfectly clear. Childhood must have varied by climate, group size, season, danger, and local tradition. Some children may have enjoyed long hours of play, others may have taken on responsibilities early. The surviving traces are scattered, and the voices of the children themselves have vanished. We can see their footprints in hardened ground, their finger marks in soft clay, sometimes their small mistakes in stone, but we cannot hear exactly what they thought about the morning. You look toward the stream. Two older children walk beside a woman carrying a hide bag. She points to a plant near the bank. One child nods. The other reaches too quickly, and the woman catches the hand before it closes around the leaves. Her expression is calm but firm. Not that one. The child pulls back. A lesson has entered the body. In this world, a memory is protection. A child who learns which berries to avoid has gained a kind of shield. A child who learns where the ground becomes slippery near the stream may avoid injury. A child who knows the sound of alarm in an adult's voice may survive a dangerous moment before fully understanding why. You follow them a little way from camp. The ground is damp and cool beneath your feet. Morning light glitters on the water. The woman digs carefully near a cluster of reeds, then lets the older child try. The child presses the digging stick into the earth, struggles, shifts position, and finally loosens a small root. Mud clings to it. The child holds it up with pride. It is not much food, but it is knowledge made visible. A tiny piece of evidence from the deep past can sometimes feel almost painfully human. In several prehistoric cave sites, children left handprints or finger tracings on walls and soft surfaces. Whether these marks were playful, ritual, artistic, or simply curious is not always certain. Yet they remind us that small hands once reached out to touch the same mysterious world adults were trying to understand. Back at camp, a baby begins to cry. The sound is thin and immediate. A woman lifts the child and settles them against her chest. Someone nearby shifts closer to block the wind. Another person feeds the fire. The crying softens into little hiccuping breaths. Care for children is not sentimental decoration here. It is central to survival. Human children are vulnerable for a long time. They require food, warmth, protection, teaching, and patience. This long dependency may feel demanding, and it is, but it also helps create deep social bonds. To raise a child in this world is rarely the work of one person alone. It takes mothers, fathers, siblings, grandparents, relatives, and trusted others. You see this clearly as the morning continues. A young child falls asleep against an older sibling. An adult who is not the parent shares a piece of softened food. A grandmother-like figure tells a quiet story while twisting plant fibers into cord. Children lean close, pretending to listen only a little, though their eyes keep returning to her hands. The story may teach a place, an animal, a rule, a memory, or simply the comfort of belonging. The fire crackles. Smoke rises. The children shift between play and work so naturally that the boundary almost disappears. One moment a stick is a spear. The next, it is fuel. One moment a stone is a toy. The next, it becomes a lesson in sharpness. One moment a child runs laughing through grass. The next, they stop perfectly still because an adult has raised a hand. This is how the ancient world enters them. Not all at once, not through explanation alone, through repetition, through touch, through hunger, through warmth, through mistakes corrected before they become dangerous. You sit again near the hearth as the sun climbs higher. A child settles beside you and studies your hands. After a while, they place a small stone in your palm as though offering treasure. It is ordinary, smooth and grey. You accept it solemnly. The child seems satisfied. Perhaps this is also part of human life 50,000 years ago. Not only survival, but the need to give, receive, copy, laugh, and be seen. The camp continues around you. Adults prepare for tasks. Children watch from the edges, then step inward, then drift away again. Their small voices mingle with the fire and wind, and in them, quietly, the future is already beginning, not as cities or writing or farms, but as memory passed from hand to hand beneath the open ice age sky. By late afternoon, the camp begins to fold itself inward. The wide landscape is still there, of course, the grasslands, the stream, the distant trees, the hills holding their long shadows beneath the lowering sun. But as the light softens, attention returns to the fire, and people drift toward it as naturally as water finds a hollow. You sit close enough to feel warmth on your knees. The flames are stronger now, fed by dry branches gathered earlier in the day. They rise and bend in the breeze, gold and orange against the deepening blue of evening. Smoke moves upward in slow ribbons, carrying the familiar scent of wood, ash, fat, and damp hide. Sparks lift, glow for a heartbeat, and disappear. Around you, people settle into their places, not assigned places, remembered places. The older woman sits where the smoke bothers her least. A child curls beside someone warm. A toolmaker chooses a flat stone near the light. Someone with tired legs stretches them toward the edge of the heat. Small habits create order without anyone announcing it. If someone thousands of years later were to excavate a site like this, they might find darkened earth, charcoal, burned bones, cracked stones, scattered flakes, and traces of repeated use around hearths. From such remains, we know that fire was not only practical, it shaped social space. People cooked near it, worked near it, rested near it, and likely told stories near it. The hearth was a kind of centre before houses, before streets, before temples, before all the grand architecture humans would later become so proud of. A piece of meat is placed on hot stone. Fat begins to soften. The smell spreads slowly through the group. No one pretends not to notice. Hunger turns many faces in the same direction. Food is divided carefully. Some receive more, some less, depending on age, need, contribution, and relationships that you do not fully see. Sharing is warm, but it is also complicated. A child is given a softer piece. An older person receives marrow. Someone who walked far today eats quietly, eyes half closed with relief. You take what is passed to you. It is hot at the edges and smoky all through. You chew slowly. The firelight makes everything feel closer. Faces that seemed ordinary in daylight now glow with shifting warmth. Lines deepen, eyes shine. Hair catches sparks of colour. The same people who move through grass and stone all day now appear almost dreamlike beside the flames. This is the hour when work changes shape. Hands remain busy, but the pace slows. Someone scrapes a hide. the sound steady and rough. Someone twists fibers into cord. Someone sharpens a stone edge with careful pressure. Someone checks a child's foot for a thorn. The air fills with small sound, or scrape, crackle, murmur, breath. A soft laugh. A cough swallowed quickly. A baby sighing in sleep. Curiously, some of the smallest objects found in ancient camps reveal the most intimate parts of life. Tiny burned seeds, bone fragments, pigments, broken tools, and worn scrapers can show that people were not simply surviving in brief moments of panic. They were maintaining their world, preparing food, repairing gear, working by firelight, turning evening into usefulness. You lean back against a rolled hide and listen. A voice begins, low, unhurried. The words are not yours, and yet the rhythm feels understandable. It rises and falls like walking. Others look toward the speaker. A few smile before the story reaches its point, suggesting they have heard this one before, probably many times. Some things are repeated because they're useful, others because the storyteller enjoys being difficult to escape. The children listen with different levels of discipline. One watches the speaker with wide eyes, another pokes Ash with a stick. A third pretends not to listen while clearly absorbing every word. Stories here may carry knowledge about animals, weather, danger, kinship, memory, and places far beyond the camp. They may also carry humor, grief, warning, and wonder. Before writing, a story is a container. It holds what a group cannot afford to lose. No one can say for certain what tales were told around fires 50,000 years ago. The voices are gone. The exact words vanished the moment they entered the night air. But the need for story is written deeply into human life. Wherever people gather, they explain, remember, exaggerate, tease, comfort, and ask why the world is the way it is. The fire burns lower, then rises again when new wood is added. The storyteller gestures with one hand, perhaps describing an animal, perhaps a journey, perhaps an ancestor, perhaps something stranger, something glimpsed in dream or stormlight. A child shifts closer to an adult when the voice drops. The adult places a hand lightly on the child's back. Not alarm, just reassurance. You watch that hand. It rests there without ceremony. In that simple touch, an entire social world becomes visible. Human beings survive not only because they make tools and find food, they survive because they soothe one another. They share fear before it becomes too heavy. They turn darkness into a circle of faces. They make night feel inhabited. Modern life often treats social connection as something scheduled, a message sent, a call planned, a dinner arranged between other obligations. Here, connection is built into survival. You cannot fully separate warmth, food, safety, and companionship. They gather together in one place, and that place is the fire. The wind moves beyond the shelter. You hear it comb through grass. Farther away, something calls in the darkening land. The sound is long and low. Several people pause. Then, after a moment, return to their tasks. The firelight feels more precious now. Beyond it, the world has lost its edges. Rocks and bushes become shapes. Trees become black lines against the sky. The stream continues speaking softly in the distance. Though you can no longer see it, within the circle, life remains clear. A young person offers a repaired tool to its owner. The owner tests the edge and nods. Someone shares a piece of roasted root. Two children lean against each other, fighting sleep and losing with quiet dignity. An older woman begins humming. The tune is simple, perhaps not a song in the formal sense, just a pattern of sound, a comfort. Others do not join loudly, but you feel the camp soften around it. The humming mixes with crackling wood until it becomes part of the evening. The sound has no visible trace. It will leave no fossil, no stone tool, no bone mark. Yet for the people here, it matters. Sometimes the deepest parts of the past are the hardest to prove. Affection rarely fossilizes. Trust leaves few sharp edges. A shared joke does not survive in sediment. But without these things, the tools and bones would tell only half the story. You hold your hands toward the flames. Your palms glow orange. The heat sinks into your fingers, loosening the stiffness left by the day's work. Your body grows heavy, not with danger, not with despair, with the ordinary tiredness of a life spent moving, noticing, carrying, and belonging. The storyteller's voice continues. The fire answers in sparks. The night gathers around the camp but does not enter it. And as you sit among these ancient humans, shoulder near shoulder, breath mingling with smoke and cold air, you understand that the fire does more than keep the body warm. It keeps the group visible to itself. It lets faces return from darkness. It gives memory a place to sit, and within its trembling light, human trust glows softly, older than history, older than writing, and still recognizable whenever people gather close against the night. The fire has burned low by the time dawn returns. A faint glow lingers beneath grey ash, breathing quietly in the cold morning air. Around it, sleeping shapes begin to stir. Someone pulls a hide closer around their shoulders. A child rolls over and disappears deeper into a bundle of furs. The wind slips through the camp, carrying the smell of frost, smoke, and damp grass. You wake slowly. The first sensation is not sight. It is temperature. Cold touches your face. Cold touches your hands. Cold waits in the air between your body and the fire. In a world like this, clothing is never merely decoration. Before you even sit up, you become aware of the animal skin wrapped around you. Its surface feels rough in some places, smooth in others. Smoke has darkened it over time. Fat has softened sections of it. Countless days of wear have shaped it to your body. You pull it tighter and immediately feel the difference. Warmth returns. Not luxury. Not comfort in the modern sense, but protection. And protection is precious. Across many Ice Age sites, archaeologists have uncovered bone needles, awls, hide-working tools, and other objects associated with clothing production. These discoveries suggest that prehistoric people developed increasingly sophisticated ways of creating garments suited to challenging climates. Surviving animal skins rarely last tens of thousands of years, but the tools used to prepare them often remain behind. The camp begins waking. A woman kneels beside the fire and carefully exposes the glowing embers beneath the ash. Fresh fuel is added. Thin threads of smoke rise into the pale morning sky. Nearby, an older man examines a section of hide stretched across his knees. The hide needs repair. A small tear has appeared near one edge. Not serious, yet, if ignored, the damage will spread. You sit nearby and watch. His hands move with patient certainty. A bone needle passes through the material. Sinew thread follows behind it. Pull, tighten, repeat. The motion is almost hypnotic. Simple, steady, effective. A modern jacket arrives finished. Someone else designed it, cut it, assembled it, transported it, and sold it. Here, every step remains visible. You know the animal. You know who cleaned the hide. You know who scraped it. You know who smoked it. You know who stitched it. Clothing carries stories. The smell of hide fills the air around you. It is earthy, animal, slightly smoky, not unpleasant once you're accustomed to it. The scent belongs to survival itself. You run your fingers along the edge of your own covering. The seams feel firm, The material is thickened in places where repairs overlap older repairs. Each patch represents a decision made long ago. Fix this now. Save warmth for later. One small object recovered from prehistoric sites tells an unexpectedly large story. Bone needles with carefully crafted eyes have been found at several Upper Paleolithic locations. These tools suggest a level of precision that allowed people to create fitted garments rather than simply draping skins around the body. A tiny needle reveals an enormous amount about ingenuity. The morning brightens, sunlight touches the tops of distant grasses. The frost begins retreating. Children emerge from their sleeping places one by one, bundled in smaller versions of the same materials used by adults. One rubs sleep from their eyes. Another immediately begins poking at the edge of a hide blanket with intense curiosity, apparently determined to investigate its construction despite being 5 minutes awake. The older woman laughs softly. She adjusts the garment around the child's shoulders. The child immediately begins running. Some aspects of humanity remain wonderfully consistent. You stand and stretch. The hide covering shifts against your skin. You notice how carefully it is shaped. Openings allow movement. The shoulders are protected. The most vulnerable parts of the body remain insulated. Nothing is accidental. The picture becomes less clear when researchers try to determine exactly what various prehistoric garments looked like. Animal skins decay quickly under most conditions. The clothing itself rarely survives. Instead, specialists reconstruct possibilities using tools, wear patterns, climate data, artistic evidence from later periods, and rare preserved finds. We can glimpse the solution, not always the exact appearance. Some people may have worn layered skins. Others may have preferred lighter garments depending on environment. Different regions likely to develop different traditions. The surviving clues refuse to provide a complete wardrobe catalogue. You walk toward the stream. The morning air bites your cheeks. Immediately you appreciate the hide wrapped around your body. Without it, the cold feels sharper. The wind stronger, the world less forgiving. For ancient humans, clothing expands the range of places where life becomes possible. Warm coverings allow longer travel, safer nights, and survival during harsher seasons. In many ways, clothing is a technology every bit as important as fire. At the water's edge, you kneel. Your reflection trembles on the surface. The hide draped over your shoulders looks worn but capable. It does not impress anyone. It does not signal status through logos, brands, or fashionable colors. Its achievement is simpler. It keeps you alive. Behind you, several people are preparing fresh hides gathered from earlier hunts. The process is labor-intensive. Scraping, stretching, cleaning, drying, smoking, softening. Every step requires time. Every mistake carries consequences. A poorly prepared hide becomes stiff. A badly stitched seam leaks warmth. A damaged garment can turn an ordinary cold night into something dangerous. Hidden among ancient campsites are countless stone scrapers whose edges were worn smooth through hide preparation. At first glance they appear ordinary. Yet these modest tools may represent hundreds of hours spent transforming raw animal skins into wearable protection. You return toward the fire. Someone is rubbing fat into a section of leather-like material. Another person pulls gently at a hide to increase flexibility. Nearby, a young learner imitates the movements with exaggerated seriousness. Learning happens again. Not through instruction manuals, through observation, through repetition, through hands guiding hands. The smell of smoke grows stronger as fresh wood catches fire. A warm current brushes against your legs. And you hold your palms toward the flames. The contrast between heat and cold feels wonderful. The camp settles into its morning rhythm. Repair, preparation, conversation, movement. Everywhere you look, clothing participates quietly in survival. A child wrapped in fur sleeping safely, an elder protected from wind, a hunter moving across open grassland, a traveller crossing colder terrain, a worker kneeling beside stone and wood. The garments rarely demand attention. That is part of their success. The best protection often becomes invisible. You glance toward the horizon. Clouds drift slowly above the distant hills. The season will change eventually. Temperatures will rise and fall. Storms will come. New camps will be built. Old camps will be left behind. Yet wherever humans travel, they carry these skills with them. Needles, sinew, hide, patience, knowledge. Each generation passes the craft onward, one repaired seam at a time, one lesson at a time. One cold morning at a time, the fire crackles softly. Smoke rises into the brightening sky. You adjust the hide around your shoulders and feel its familiar weight settle comfortably into place. Then, warmed by both clothing and flame, you prepare for another day beneath the vast Ice Age sky, wrapped in one of humanity's oldest and most essential inventions. Section 14. Morning returns once more. The fire survives the night. Beneath a blanket of pale ash, red embers still glow softly, waiting for breath and fuel. Someone kneels beside them and coaxes flame back into the world. Smoke rises into cold air. Frost shines along the grass. The camp stretches awake. You sit quietly, watching the first light touch the distant hills. There is comfort in the familiar rhythm now. Wake, warm yourself, eat, walk, gather, watch, return, sleep. Yet today your thoughts drift beyond your own camp, beyond the stream, beyond the valley, beyond the people whose faces you know, because the world 50,000 years ago is not occupied by Homo sapiens alone. You're not the only kind of human walking beneath these skies. That realization feels strange even now. Modern people are accustomed to being the sole surviving human species. Wherever you travel on Earth, every person belongs to the same species. Differences exist, certainly, but they are differences within one human family. Your world is different. Somewhere beyond the horizon, perhaps not very far away, another group may be waking beside another fire. Their faces may look familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. Their voices may sound strange. Their tools may resemble yours. Their lives may overlap with yours in ways neither group fully understands. These are the people modern science calls Neanderthals. You have no name for them. They have no name for themselves that history remembers. They are simply people living their lives. The first clues emerged long ago from bones discovered in caves and ancient sediments. Since then, discoveries across Europe and parts of Western Asia have revealed a picture of a human relative who survived for hundreds of thousands of years before disappearing. They hunted, made tools, cared for one another, controlled fire, and adapted to difficult environments. For a long time, many people imagined Neanderthals as crude creatures stumbling through prehistory. The evidence tells a different story. You walk with several members of the camp toward a ridge overlooking open ground. The air is crisp, the sun remains low, birds move between scattered trees. As you climb, your thoughts linger on the possibility that another human group might exist nearby. Not monsters, not mythical beings. People, different people. A small fragment of bone discovered in a cave can sometimes change our understanding of entire populations. Ancient DNA extracted from such remains has revealed something remarkable. The ancestors of many modern humans and Neanderthals did not simply encounter one another. They occasionally had children together. Today, traces of Neanderthal DNA still survive in many living people. The encounter was not merely contact, it became ancestry. You reach the top of the ridge. The view stretches outward across grassland and scattered woodland. Nothing moves except wind. No distant camp. No rising smoke. No visible travellers. Yet the possibility remains. Someone could be there. The land is large. You sit on a flat stone. Sunlight warms one side of your face. The cold lingers on the other. Around you, people scan the landscape for animals, resources, and signs of movement. A few tracks cross a patch of exposed soil nearby. Not human, not recent. Still, they remind you how much information passes across the ground. How many lives intersect without ever meeting? The picture grows hazier when we ask exactly how often Homo sapiens and Neanderthals encountered one another. Some regions may have seen repeated contact, others perhaps very little. The surviving evidence gives glimpses rather than a complete map. We see moments illuminated briefly, surrounded by vast areas of uncertainty. You imagine such a meeting. Perhaps it happens near a river. Perhaps both groups arrive seeking water. Perhaps they notice each other from a distance. What happens next? Curiosity, caution, trade, avoidance, conversation. No one knows. Human beings are capable of extraordinary kindness and extraordinary suspicion. Both possibilities existed then, just as they do now. A breeze carries the scent of damp earth. You look down at your hands. Your fingers are not very different from theirs would have been. Their hands shaped tools. Their hands carried children. Their hands tended fires. Their hands buried loved ones. The differences matter, but the similarities matter too. Hidden within cave deposits, archaeologists have uncovered evidence suggesting that Neanderthals sometimes cared for injured individuals who survived long after serious wounds. Such discoveries hint at social bonds, compassion, and cooperation. They remind us that empathy is not a recent invention. The group continues moving. You descend the ridge and follow a path along a line of low trees. The morning brightens steadily. Birdsong fills the air. The smell of warming vegetation replaces the sharp scent of frost. Life continues as usual, yet something has shifted in your perspective. The world feels more populated now, not crowded, but shared. Every valley may contain stories you never hear. Every distant column of smoke may belong to people whose names are lost. Every trail could lead towards strangers who are both familiar and foreign. You pause beside a stream crossing, water curled around stones polished smooth by centuries of movement. A child tosses a pebble and watches the ripples spread. Simple, ordinary, human. Perhaps another child, somewhere beyond the horizon, does exactly the same thing at this very moment. A child with different features, different language, different traditions, yet the same fascination with moving water, the same curiosity, the same laughter, the same complaints about being cold. One of the most remarkable discoveries of recent decades emerged not from weapons or buildings, but from genetics. Ancient DNA has transformed our understanding of prehistoric humanity. Instead of a single straight line leading from the past to the present, we now see a branching family tree filled with encounters, migrations, overlaps, and shared ancestry. The ancient world becomes richer because of it. More complex, more human. You continue walking and the camp remains behind you. The day unfolds ahead. The grass bends in waves beneath the wind. Cloud shadows drift slowly across distant hills. A hawk circles high overhead. Nothing dramatic happens. No mysterious stranger appears. No lost tribe emerges from the forest. And somehow that feels appropriate. Most encounters in history never became legends. Most people simply lived, worked, ate, walked, raised children, watched weather, sat beside fires. The same was true for Neanderthals. The same was true for Homo sapiens. The same remains true today. You glance once more toward the horizon. Somewhere beyond it, another fire may be burning. Another group may be beginning its mourning. Another version of humanity may be moving through the same ancient landscape. You will never meet them. They will never know you exist. Yet your stories overlap for a brief moment in the immense history of the world. The wind carries on, the stream flows, the sky stretches overhead, and you continue your journey through a landscape shared not by one humanity, but by several, each leaving traces behind like footprints fading slowly into the grass. The afternoon sun hangs low enough to soften the world. Light spills across the grasslands in long golden bands. The wind has calmed. Shadows stretch farther than they did in the morning. The camp behind you is busy with ordinary tasks, but for a little while you find yourself walking alone along the edge of a rocky slope. Not far from the others, just far enough to hear your own footsteps. The ground beneath you is scattered with stones of different colours. Grey, brown, red, pale yellow. Some catch the sunlight and seem to glow from within. Others disappear into the earth as if they belong there completely. You stop beside a patch of reddish soil. Something about it draws attention. Perhaps it is the colour. Perhaps it is the way one of the younger people from camp kneels beside it, carefully scraping small amounts into a hide pouch. You crouch nearby and watch. The powder stains the fingertips immediately. Red, deep, rich, almost the colour of dried blood. The young person smiles slightly and rubs a little between thumb and forefinger. This material will not feed anyone. It will not become a spear point. It will not keep out the cold. Yet someone spent time collecting it. That alone tells you something important. Human beings do not live by survival alone. Long after food is eaten and shelters collapse, traces of pigments remain surprisingly visible in the archaeological record across Africa, Europe, Asia, and other regions. Discoveries of ochre and other colouring materials suggest that people were gathering, transporting, processing, and using pigments tens of thousands of years ago. The reason matters, and the reason is beautiful. You return to camp carrying a small amount of the red powder. Near the fire, an older woman mixes it with animal fat in a shallow stone depression. Slowly, the powder changes. It becomes a thick reddish paste. A child watches with fascination. Another reaches toward it and receives a gentle warning before turning their own face into a disappointed expression of remarkable theatrical quality. The mixture is applied carefully, not everywhere. Just a small line across the arm, a mark along the face, a touch of colour on skin. You realise that beauty already exists here. Not the beauty of fashion magazines, not the beauty of luxury. A different kind, the beauty of meaning, the beauty of identity, the beauty of saying, "This is who I am." Modern people sometimes imagine prehistoric life as entirely practical, as if every moment revolved around food and danger. Yet the evidence repeatedly suggests something richer. Humans decorated objects. Humans collected unusual materials. Humans carried beads, pigments, shells, feathers, and items whose value was symbolic rather than practical. In other words, humans were being human. A woman near the fire adjusts a necklace made from small pieces of bone and shell. The objects click softly together when she moves. The necklace serves no obvious survival purpose. Yet someone made it. Someone drilled holes. Someone shaped pieces. Someone threaded them together. Someone cared enough to spend precious time creating something beautiful. You lean back and watch the sunlight catch the pale surfaces. The effect is subtle, but striking. Sometimes the smallest object carries the longest story. A single bead found in an ancient site can reveal trade, craftsmanship, symbolism, and social identity. One tiny ornament can tell us that people were thinking beyond immediate survival. The child from earlier sits nearby and studies the necklace. Eventually the owner removes it and lets the child hold it. The child examines every piece with complete seriousness. For a moment, the necklace becomes treasure. Perhaps it always was. The fire crackles softly as smoke drifts upward. The camp feels peaceful, yet your thoughts keep returning to the red pigment. Why spend effort collecting it? Why decorate skin? Why wear ornaments? The answers may differ from person to person. Perhaps beauty itself is enough. Perhaps the marks indicate family connections. Perhaps they play a role in ceremonies. Perhaps they tell stories. Perhaps they help people recognize one another. The surviving clues allow many possibilities. Meaning rarely fossilizes neatly. You can recover the pigment. You can recover the bead. Understanding exactly what it meant to the person wearing it is far more difficult. The afternoon passes slowly. Several young people sit together working on small objects. One shapes bone. Another smooths piece of wood. A third experiments with cord made from plant fibers. No one appears rushed. The pace feels different from tool-making intended purely for survival. There is concentration here, care, pride, a desire to make something well. Buried within caves and campsites across the prehistoric world are objects that seem to have existed primarily because people wanted them to exist. Carved pieces, decorative items, engraved surfaces, traces of pigment. These discoveries suggest minds interested not only in utility, but in expression. The distinction matters because it tells us something about what it felt like to be human. You're not merely a body seeking calories. You're also a mind seeking meaning. Two needs coexist. As the sun lowers further, a young woman takes some of the red pigment and presses a small mark onto the back of another person's hand. The gesture is simple. The recipient smiles. No explanation follows. None seems necessary. You wonder how many such moments disappear forever. The great events of history attract attention. Battles, kings, empires. Yet most human life consists of quieter things. A shared laugh, a gift, a decoration, a familiar face, a mark painted onto skin beside a fire. Those moments rarely survive. Yet they may matter most. The breeze returns briefly. It lifts loose strands of hair. It stirs smoke across the camp. The smell of earth and wood drifts through the air. Someone begins humming. Someone else joins softly. Children chase one another between sleeping places. The red pigment catches the last sunlight and glows warmly against skin. You look around the camp. The tools are still here. The hides, the food, the practical work of survival. But woven through it all is something else. Beauty, identity, imagination. The desire to shape the world into more than necessity. The desire to leave a mark. Thousands of years from now, archaeologists may discover fragments of pigment buried beneath layers of earth. They may recover beads from forgotten camps. They may find traces of decoration and wonder about the people who made them. What they will be seeing, in the end, is not merely art. They will be seeing evidence of inner life. Evidence that someone looked at the world and felt something beyond hunger, something beyond fear, something beyond survival. The sun finally touches the horizon. The camp glows amber in the fading light. The red markings deepen in colour. The necklaces catch the last rays. The voices soften. And as evening gathers around you once more, you sit quietly among people who are not only surviving the ancient world, but finding ways to make it meaningful, beautiful, and unmistakably human. The decision to move begins quietly. No one stands in the center of camp and announces it. There is no formal vote, no drawn map, no dramatic pointing toward the horizon. Instead, you notice small changes. A hide bag is repaired more carefully than usual. Tools are gathered and sorted. Dried food is wrapped. Children are told not to scatter important things into the grass, which is a reasonable request and also, apparently, a difficult one. The camp has served its purpose for now. The nearby routes are fewer. The animal trails have shifted. The weather is changing. The stream still runs. The shelter still holds. But the land has begun to whisper that it is time to go. Among people who live by hunting and gathering, movement is not failure. It is strategy. Staying too long in one place can empty the surrounding area of easy food and fuel. Moving allows people to follow herds, reach seasonal plants, find fresh water, and return to known places when the time is right. You help tie a bundle of hides. The material is heavy and awkward, smelling of smoke and animal fat. Nearby, someone wraps stone tools in a soft piece of skin so their edges will not cut through the carrying bag. Another person lifts a child's small collection of stones and removes most of them, gently but firmly, because the group does not need to carry every treasure ever discovered before breakfast. The child objects, naturally. One smooth stone is allowed to remain. Peace is restored. The morning air feels different from previous days. Warmer, perhaps, though the wind still has cold inside it. Clouds gather low in the distance. Birds move restlessly near the stream. The older woman watches the sky for a long time before turning back to her bundle. She has seen seasons shift before. You stand near the edge of camp and look at the place you're leaving. The hearth is darkening. Ash lies in a shallow circle. Flattened grass marks sleeping places. A few broken flakes of stone remain scattered near the toolmaker's spot. Someone has dropped a tiny fragment of cord, too small to notice. The camp already looks half abandoned, as if the land is slowly taking it back. Most of this morning will leave almost no trace. The laughter will vanish. The complaints about heavy bundles will vanish. The smell of smoke will vanish. Perhaps only a dark stain in the soil, a few chips of stone, and some burned bone will remain, sleeping beneath the earth until a future hand uncovers them and wonders who you were. You begin walking. At first the pace is slow because everyone is adjusting to weight. Bags settle against hips. Spears shift across shoulders. Children move ahead, then are called back. Older people walk steadily, with the practiced patience of those who know that a journey is not conquered by hurrying at the beginning. The camp recedes behind you. You cross the familiar stream at a shallow point. The water bites at your feet and ankles. Stones shift underfoot. Someone reaches out to steady a child. Someone else slips slightly, recovers, and pretends nothing happened, which fools absolutely no one. On the far bank, the group pauses to let everyone gather again. Then you continue. The path is not a road, but it's not entirely unknown. Memory has walked here before. The group follows a route shaped by past journeys, animal movements, water sources, and old stories. A certain tree marks the way toward higher ground. A ridge offers a view of the valley. A cluster of rocks indicates a place where useful stone might be found. You carry the landscape inside you, not all at once, piece by piece. A bend in the stream, a patch of bitter plants, a place where bees were once found, a hollow where fog stays late, a slope where snow lingers, a ridge where wind always speaks first. The day lengthens. Sunlight moves across the grasslands. The air smells of dry plants and distant rain. Your shoulders begin to ache from the load. The strap across your chest rubs your skin. You shift it, and for a few minutes the discomfort improves. Then it returns with impressive loyalty. Movement is tiring, but it also brings freshness. New views open ahead, the valley widens, trees gather more thickly along a river course. Far away, dark shapes move across open ground, perhaps animals grazing, perhaps only shadows drifting with cloud. The group slows to watch. Nobody turns toward them yet. This journey has a purpose, and not every possibility can be followed. Seasonal movement gives life a rhythm larger than any single day. Certain places are useful in spring, others in colder months. Some are good after rains. Some are dangerous when rivers rise. A human group that survives in such a world does not simply wander aimlessly. It travels through a remembered geography, guided by need, experience, and the quiet intelligence of generations. By afternoon, you reach a sheltered hollow where low trees grow near a curve in the river. The place is known. You can tell by the way people relax slightly when they see it. The older man points toward a flat area above the water. Someone else moves to check for animal signs. A few people begin clearing branches and stones. Children are told where they may play and where they may definitely not play, a boundary they immediately test with great scientific interest. The new camp begins forming, not built from nothing, built from memory. A fireplace is chosen. Sleeping areas are arranged. Bundles are set down. Tools emerge again. The group unfolds itself into the hollow like a hand opening. You kneel to gather dry grass for bedding. The smell is sweet and dusty. Your fingers find old leaves beneath it, cool and damp. Insects move away from the disturbance. Nearby, someone cuts branches for a windbreak. The sound of snapping wood carries through the trees. The river speaks softly below. Its surface reflects the pale sky. A bird lands on a branch, watches the humans for a moment and then flies away, apparently unimpressed by the entire operation. Evening approaches. The first flames of the new fire catch, small and uncertain at first, then stronger. Smoke rises in a fresh column, announcing your presence to the valley. The light touches tired faces. People sit, stretch, unpack, repair, sort, and breathe. You look around. This morning's home is behind you. Tonight's home is here. Tomorrow, perhaps. This place will begin to feel familiar too. That is one of the quiet truths of this life. Home is not only a fixed location. Home is the fire made again, the people gathered again, the tools placed within reach, the children curled near warmth, the old stories carried forward into a new hollow, beneath a new arrangement of stars. You sit beside the young fire as dusk settles. Your body is tired from walking, your feet ache, your shoulders are sore, yet there is comfort in the completion of the journey. The group has moved with the season. It has followed memory across the land. It has arrived before dark. The river murmurs, the fire grows, the first stars appear above the trees. And you understand that survival here is not standing still against the world. It is moving with it. Slowly, carefully, season after season. The new camp settles into the landscape as if it has always belonged there. By the second morning, the flattened grass around the fire already feels familiar. The paths between sleeping places have begun to appear. Children know where the riverbank becomes slippery. The older people know where the morning sun reaches first. The toolmaker has chosen a favourite stone to sit on. The camp is becoming a place rather than simply a location. You wake before sunrise. The air is cool and still. Mist hangs above the river in pale ribbons. The water moves silently beneath it, dark and smooth except where it curls around exposed stones. A faint glow lingers in the east. The rest of the world remains wrapped in shadow. For a few moments, everything feels peaceful. Then you hear coughing. Not loud, not dramatic, just persistent. A short, dry cough from somewhere near the edge of camp, then another. You turn your head. An older man sits wrapped tightly in hides. His shoulders are slightly hunched. He stares into the embers while rubbing his hands together. When he coughs again, several nearby people glance toward him. No one appears surprised. Illness is part of life here, just as cold is, just as hunger is, just as weather is. The people around you have no hospitals, no pharmacies, no written medical knowledge, yet they are far from helpless. Over countless generations, they have accumulated observations about injuries, sickness, plants, recovery, and care. A woman kneels beside the old man and offers him warm water. He drinks slowly. The steam rises between his hands. The gesture is simple, yet important, because healing often begins with attention. The old man is not left alone. Someone checks on him. Someone notices. Someone cares. You watch as another person adds extra fuel to the fire nearest his sleeping place. A child is gently directed elsewhere so the area remains quiet. No one announces a treatment plan. The camp simply adjusts itself around the need. Human beings are unusual in many ways. One of the most important is how much effort we invest in helping vulnerable members survive. Many animals care for their young. Far fewer regularly support injured adults, elderly individuals, or people unable to contribute fully for extended periods. Humans do. Again and again. You see it here. The old man is not abandoned because he moves more slowly. The woman with an injured wrist still receives food. The child too small to gather resources still eats. The group absorbs weakness rather than immediately rejecting it. As the morning brightens, several people leave to collect materials near the river. You accompany them. The damp earth smells rich and clean. Water birds move among reeds. Tiny insects hover above the surface. The world feels alive. One woman pauses beside a cluster of plants growing near the water's edge. She studies them carefully before harvesting several stems. Nearby, another person gathers bark from a particular tree. Not too much, only enough. You do not know exactly what these materials are for. Perhaps neither do all the younger members of the group. Knowledge is unevenly distributed. Some people know animals better. Some understand stone. Some understand weather. Some understand plants. The woman carries the stems back toward camp. When she returns, part of the plant is crushed between stones. The smell released is strong, bitter, sharp, almost medicinal. She mixes the crushed material into warm water. The old man drinks reluctantly. His expression suggests the taste is not especially enjoyable. This surprises nobody. Throughout human history, remedies have often displayed a remarkable commitment to being unpleasant. Whether the mixture truly helps is difficult to know. Some traditional plant medicines contain active compounds. Others may offer comfort rather than direct treatment. Still others may do both. The people here rely on observation. If something appears helpful over many seasons, it is remembered. If it seems harmful, it is avoided. Most knowledge arrives through experience rather than theory. The day continues. The old man rests. Others work. Children play near the river. The camp moves through its normal rhythm. Yet you notice small acts of care everywhere. A younger woman adjusts a hide blanket around an elder's shoulders. A man carries extra firewood for someone whose leg hurts. A child shares food with a younger sibling. An older woman checks a scrape on a teenager's arm and removes dirt from the wound. None of these actions seem extraordinary. That is precisely what makes them meaningful. Compassion here is ordinary. It is woven into daily life. The afternoon grows warmer. Sunlight reflects from the river. The old man eventually emerges from his resting place and sits near the fire. He still coughs, but less frequently. Several people greet him with visible relief. A child immediately begins telling him a story involving a bird, a stick, and apparently several impossible events. The old man listens patiently. Whether he believes any of it is another matter. You smile. Recovery, when it comes, often arrives gradually, one quiet hour after another. As evening approaches, the camp gathers once more around the fire. The river reflects the orange glow of sunset. Smoke drifts upward through still air. The old man sits among the others. Perhaps he is fully recovered. Perhaps not. Perhaps he will feel worse tomorrow. No one can know. The future remains hidden, as it always has. Yet tonight, he is here, warm, fed, surrounded by people who noticed his suffering and responded to it. The fire crackles softly. Children settle near their families. Tools are repaired. Food is shared. Conversation rises and falls in gentle waves. You watch the faces around the flames. So much of prehistoric life involves strength, walking, hunting, carrying, enduring. But another force exists here as well. Care. Without it, many lives would end too soon. Without it, knowledge would disappear. Without it, children would not reach adulthood. Without it, elders would not pass on their experience. The story of human survival is not only a story of intelligence, it is also a story of kindness. The stars appear above the river. The camp grows quiet. The old man leans closer to the warmth. Someone places another piece of wood onto the fire, and as darkness settles gently over the valley, you understand that one of humanity's greatest strengths has never been found in muscles or weapons. It has always been found in the willingness to help one another through the difficult seasons of life. The next morning is quieter. Mist lies over the river again, but it feels heavier now, as though the valley is holding its breath. The old man who coughed through the previous dawn is still alive, resting near the fire, wrapped in hides. Yet something else has changed at the camp. People speak softly. Children are guided away from one side of the hollow. A woman sits alone near a cluster of stones, her hands folded in her lap, eyes lowered. You notice an absence before you fully understand it. Someone is gone, not away gathering and not sleeping late. Gone in the way that changes the shape of a group. The person who died was not young but not ancient either. Perhaps illness took them slowly. Perhaps an injury worsened. Perhaps the body simply reached the end of what it could endure. In this world, death is familiar, but familiarity does not make it small. The camp moves around the loss with a strange gentleness. No one wails loudly for long. No one pretends nothing has happened. There is work to do, but the work is careful, almost tender. The body is wrapped in hide. A few people sit nearby. Someone brushes hair away from the face. Someone places a hand on the covering and leaves it there. You stand at the edge of the firelight and feel the morning cold move through your clothing. Death in this world is not hidden behind hospital curtains, funeral homes, or distant institutions. It is close. It arrives among people who know the face, the voice, the habits, the favorite place beside the fire. It changes who carries a bundle, who tells a story, who remembers a path, who receives the first portion of marrow. Loss is practical. Loss is emotional. Loss is social. It touches everything. Much of what we know about ancient attitudes toward death comes from burials, bones, grave goods, pigments, body positions, and the care shown in placement. Not every dead person was buried in a way that survived. Many lives disappeared without leaving clear traces. But where burials are found, They can reveal that prehistoric people sometimes treated the dead with attention rather than indifference. You follow as several adults carry the wrapped body away from the main camp. The river sounds behind you. Birds call from the reeds. The path leads toward a quiet area near a low rock shelter, partly hidden from the wind. The ground there is firm but not impossible to dig. Someone has already begun loosening the soil with antler, wood, and stone. No one hurries. The work is difficult. Earth resists. Stones must be removed. Roots cling. Hands grow dirty. Breath clouds in the cold air. You help carry stones aside. Your fingers ache. Soil packs beneath your nails. Each movement feels ordinary and solemn at the same time. A child watches from a distance, held close by an adult. The child's face is serious. Perhaps they understand. Perhaps not fully, but they understand enough to be quiet. A small object is brought forward. It may be a bead, a tool, a piece of ochre, something touched, carried, or valued. It is placed near the body. The gesture is simple, but it opens a doorway into questions no one can answer completely. Did people believe the dead needed things? Did they see death as a journey? Did the object mark affection? Identity, memory, respect. The past grows dim here. The object remains. The thought behind it slips beyond reach. The body is lowered. The hide shifts softly against the earth. For a few moments, everyone is still. The wind moves through dry grass above the shelter. A bird calls once, then stops. Someone begins speaking in a low voice. The words are not loud enough for everyone to hear clearly. Perhaps it is a farewell. Perhaps a memory. Perhaps a story about the person's life. Perhaps only sound shaped gently against grief. The earth is returned, slowly, handful by handful, stone by stone. The place changes. A body becomes part of the ground. A person becomes memory. You feel the weight of it in your chest. Not a sharp terror, something quieter. A recognition that every fire circle has empty spaces waiting in its future. When the burial is finished, one of the women presses red pigment lightly onto a stone near the place. The colour is vivid against grey. It glows for a moment in the pale light. Then people begin walking back. No one turns the moment into a grand speech. No one explains what it means. Meaning lives in the act itself. Back at camp, the fire is still burning. That is the strange thing. The fire continues. Food must still be prepared. Children must still be watched. Tools still need repair. The old man still coughs near the embers. Life does not pause completely for grief, even when grief deserves the whole sky. You sit near the edge of camp and listen. The river moves. The fire cracks. A child asks a quiet question and receives an answer you cannot fully understand. Someone begins scraping a hide again, but more slowly than usual. The sound is steady. Scrape, pause, scrape. You think of the person now lying beneath stones and earth. Their voice is gone. Their hands will no longer gather roots or shape tools. Yet their knowledge has not vanished entirely. Someone remembers their stories. Someone remembers where they found food after a hard winter. Someone remembers the way they laughed. Someone remembers a warning they once gave. In a world without writing, memory is a fragile burial place, but it is also a living one. The dead continue inside the living for as long as they are spoken of. Perhaps that is one of the oldest forms of afterlife humans ever knew. A fragment no larger than a fingernail may one day survive from this morning. A bead, a pigment stain, a shaped stone, a bone resting in careful position. Future people may study it and build theories around it. They may debate what it meant. They may never know the name, the voice, or the exact sorrow of the camp, but they will know this much. Someone cared. The day passes gently. No large journey is made. No hunt begins. The group stays near the hollow, as if movement would disturb something not yet settled. Food is shared. A few people visit the burial place and return quietly. Children play again by afternoon, but not as loudly. At sunset, the sky turns soft pink and grey. Smoke rises straight upward. The river reflects the fading light. The old woman hums near the fire, and this time the tune feels different, slower, lower, a sound for someone absent. You sit with the others as darkness gathers. The empty place near the flames remains visible. No one fills it. Not yet. The night comes, and with it the old pattern of warmth, smoke, breath, and stars. But now the camp carries one more memory, one more story, one more silence. And as you look toward the dark outline of the rocks beyond the river, you understand the human life 50,000 years ago was not only about surviving each day, it was also about learning how to carry loss, softly, together, into the next morning. Word count, R65. The seasons turn quietly, not in a single dramatic moment, not with a trumpet call from the sky. The change arrives through small things. The mornings become colder, the shadows grow longer, certain birds disappear, the wind carries a different smell. Grass that once stood tall begins to fade and bend. The river runs lower than before. You notice these changes one by one, often without realizing it. Then one morning you wake and understand that the world is no longer the same world you walked through weeks earlier. The camp has changed too. Children who once stumbled over roots now move confidently through the landscape. A young boy who spent his days asking endless questions now helps gather fuel without being asked. A girl who once followed older relatives now teaches younger children where certain plants grow. Growth happens gradually. The people living through it rarely notice. Yet time is always moving. You sit beside the river at dawn. Mist drifts above the water. The surface reflects pale clouds moving across the sky. A fish breaks the surface briefly, leaving widening circles behind. Then the water becomes still again. You watch the ripples disappear. Life often feels like that. Moments arrive. Moments spread outward. Then they become memory. The group has travelled many paths since the beginning of your journey. Streams have been crossed. Shelters have been built and abandoned. Animals have been followed. Storms have passed. Children have grown. People have been lost. New stories have replaced old ones. Yet certain things remain unchanged. The fire still gathers everyone together at night. The stars still appear overhead. The wind still moves across open ground. The need for food, warmth, companionship, and safety remains constant. You rise and walk back toward camp. The smell of smoke reaches you before the camp itself becomes visible. Someone is already feeding wood into the fire. Someone else is preparing food. A child chases another child through the grass. The scene feels familiar, comfortingly familiar. Not because every day is identical, because certain patterns repeat. The rhythm of life continues. An older woman sits near the fire. You realize she has become slower than she once was. Her hands still work carefully. Her eyes still notice things others miss. But she moves with greater caution now. The years are visible in her body. The children, meanwhile, seem almost unable to stop moving. They run, climb, explore, laugh, ask questions, touch everything. The contrast makes you smile. The camp contains many ages at once, many stages of life sharing the same space. An elder's memory, an adult's responsibility, a teenager's confidence, a child's curiosity. Together they form something larger than any individual person, a community. As the day continues, several people leave to check animal trails. You join them. The landscape feels familiar now. You know where the ground becomes muddy after rain. You know which hills provide the best views. You know where berries sometimes appear during warmer months. You know where dangerous animals are most likely to travel. The knowledge does not belong only to you. It belongs to the group, passed from person to person, season to season, generation to generation. You stop near a ridge overlooking open grassland. The view stretches far into the distance. Herds move like dark brush strokes across the plain. Cloud shadows drift slowly over the land. The horizon seems endless. For a while, no one speaks. There is no need. The scene says enough. The people beside you carry thousands of memories, not written memories, lived memories, a particular winter, a difficult hunt, a good campsite, a flood, a birth, a loss, a successful journey, a narrow escape. The landscape is filled with invisible stories. You begin walking again. The ground slopes downward toward a stand of trees. Sunlight filters through the branches. Birdsong echoes between trunks. A squirrel darts across your path carrying something twice its own size and displaying an admirable level of confidence. Life continues everywhere, not only among humans. The trees continue growing. Animals continue migrating. Rivers continue flowing. Clouds continue crossing the sky. Human lives unfold inside a larger world that pays very little attention to individual plans, and yet humans persist. That persistence may be one of the most remarkable things about your species. Generation after generation, storm after storm, winter after winter. People adapt, learn, remember, teach, move forward. By late afternoon, the group returns to camp, the fire burns steadily, food is shared, children gather near the older woman to hear another story. You sit nearby and listen. The story may have been told many times before. Nobody seems to mind. Familiar stories carry comfort. They connect people to the past. They remind listeners who they are. The children lean closer. The older woman speaks slowly. The firelight flickers across her face. For a moment, the scene feels timeless, not because time has stopped, because moments like this have happened countless times. Different faces, different voices, different landscapes, yet the same basic human experience, a group gathered together, sharing knowledge, sharing memory, sharing warmth. The sun sinks lower. The sky shifts toward gold and amber. Smoke rises into still air. Somewhere beyond the horizon, other human groups are ending their own day. Other fires burn. Other stories are told. Other children fall asleep beside familiar voices. You may never meet them. They may never know you exist. Yet you share the same broad journey, the long road of survival, the long road of adaptation, the long road that stretches from the distant past toward futures nobody can yet imagine. Darkness begins gathering around the camp. The stars emerge one by one. The familiar sounds of evening return. Crackling fire, soft conversation, gentle wind, flowing water. You sit quietly and watch the flames. The children listening to stories today will someday tell stories themselves. The knowledge carried by the elders will continue traveling forward. The camp will move. The seasons will change. The world will keep turning. And through it all, humanity will continue walking its long path beneath the stars. Dawn comes softly over the valley. The fire is low. The river is pale. and the sky has the delicate colour of ash before it turns blue. You wake beneath your hide covering and listen before moving, water over stone, wind through grass, a child breathing nearby, a bird calling from the trees. The sounds are familiar now, so familiar that they almost feel like part of your own body. You sit up slowly. Cold air touches your face, but it does not shock you as it once did. You have learned this world by feeling it. The sting of morning, the weight of smoke in your hair, the ache of walking, the comfort of fire, the deep silence between distant animal calls. Around you, the camp begins waking for another day. Someone stirs the embers. Someone ties a cord around a bundle. Someone lifts a sleeping child and wraps them more warmly. Nothing grand happens, no monument rises, no city appears, no written record begins. And yet everything important is here. Food, fire, memory, hands, voices, care. You walk toward the river and kneel beside the water. Your reflection trembles on the surface. For a moment, you see a face from 50,000 years ago looking back at you as not a stranger. Not entirely. The world around that face is different, but the eyes are human. They have watched stars, children, storms, hunger, laughter, and loss. They have searched horizons for animals and faces for reassurance. They have carried fear, wonder, irritation, tenderness, and hope. The water moves, and the reflection breaks. You drink. The cold spreads through you. Behind you, the camp glows with morning activity. The old woman speaks to a child. A young hunter checks a spear shaft. Someone laughs softly at a small mistake. Someone else hums while sorting roots. The dead are remembered. The living prepare to continue. The day ahead is ordinary. That is what makes it powerful. Most human history was ordinary. People woke, people worked, people worried, people helped one another, people watched the weather, people told stories at night. The future was hidden from them, just as it is hidden from you. They did not know that one day there would be farms, cities, ships, clocks, books, engines, satellites, and glowing screens beside beds in dark rooms. They did not know anyone would look back and call them prehistoric. They were simply alive. You stand and turn toward the rising sun. Light spills over the grasslands. The distant hills brighten. Mist lifts from the river and disappears. A herd moves far away, small against the open plain. Birds scatter above the trees. Smoke from the fire rises straight into the morning, a thin grey line between earth and sky. Someone calls softly. It is time to move, not away from this life, deeper into it. You return to the others, adjust the hide around your shoulders, and take your place among them. The group begins walking, slow and steady, following a path made of memory rather than stone. Each step carries the past forward. Each child carries a lesson. Each elder carries a map. Each tool carries 1,000 quiet experiments. Each story carries someone who is gone. You walk across the ancient earth as the sun rises higher. The grass brushes your legs. The air smells of water, smoke, and cold soil warming under light. The world is vast. You're small within it, but you're not helpless. You're human, and that means you carry fire in your hands, memory in your mind, and other people close enough to hear your breathing in the dark. The valley opens ahead, the morning deepens, and your long journey through life 50,000 years ago begins to fade, not because it has ended, but because it is joining the larger river of human time. Behind you, old fires cool beneath ash. Ahead of you, new fires wait to be made. Now the night grows quieter. You can let the ancient valley soften around you. The footsteps fade into grass. The voices become low and distant. The fire becomes a small red glow beneath the stars, warm enough for sleeping hands, gentle enough for tired eyes. You do not need to follow the path any farther tonight. The people of the camp will continue. They will wake again beneath cold morning light. They will gather food, repair tools, teach children, remember the dead, and walk beneath skies untouched by city glow. They will carry their world carefully, one day at a time, and you can rest here, beside the river, beside the fire, wrapped in warmth and smoke and quiet. The ancient night is wide, but it is not empty. It holds breathing, memory, water, wind, and the soft presence of others nearby. Above you, the stars shine with patient light. Below you, the earth is still. Let the sounds grow softer. The stream, the grass, the fire, the slow breath of sleeping people. Everything settles. Everything loosens. The past becomes gentle now. Not a place to struggle through, but a place to drift beside, like moonlight on dark water. You are safe in this quiet moment. The fire is warm, the night is calm. The long road of humanity continues somewhere beyond the edge of sleep. For now, there is nothing more to carry, only rest, only darkness, only the soft fading glow of an ancient fire. Sweet dreams.